Welcome to Satisfactory, a game where your goal is to exploit your environment in a very unsustainable way in order to achieve the goals of an evil corporation. Wait a second, isn't this just real life? I had 100 days to try and construct a self-sustaining industrial empire and discover the secrets of the alien entities on this planet. Will I succeed in pleasing Ada and the Fix-It Corporation? Let's find out. So, I was loaded into my drop pod and given a brief by Ada, my only companion who just happened to be a voice in my head provided by the Fix-It Corporation. My main goal here was to construct, automate, as well as exploit the planet for its natural resources, taking it for all that it contained. But before I could start doing my mission, I needed to land safely on the planet. And it was a little bit of a rough landing. There's sparks, I'm a bit concerned. Okay, we're slowing down at least, that's good news. Oh, I'm not liking how this is sounding.
Skipping parachute. Landing phase begun. Activating retro propulsion.
Okay, that was scary for a second there. I thought I was going to die already. After landing and opening the drop pod, I grabbed my little device, stroking it a little bit too lovingly. Oh, it's a bit sus. You never know what sort of relationships you can get to with inanimate objects when you're all alone on a planet. It was then time to start completing the tutorial and learning the basics of Satisfactory. I first needed to equip myself with an alien zapper, just in case any unsavory life forms wanted a piece of me. I was then told to dismantle the drop pod. Do we really want to dismantle our only way off here? I guess it will. Now that I was permanently stuck on the planet, it was time to gather some iron ore. So thankfully I did have access to a scanner which was able to actually pinpoint the location of various iron ore nodes around me. All I needed to do was head out there and actually find some. So I headed to the iron ore node that was closest to me and decided to mess around with the buttons that I had available, testing out my various tools and the various controls because I had no idea what I was doing. This is nice. This is the Ark experience, a survival experience that we're looking for. Oh. Unauthorized hostility towards Pioneer detected. Thank you. What are you possibly going to do? Oh, God. Oh, we just straight up punched this dude. After dealing with the hostile wildlife, I then found the iron ore node and began to start mining it with a little tiny chisel that I just managed to pull out of the infinite void, apparently, because who knows where that was stored. Thankfully, I was able to gather enough iron ore to please Ada, and I could go ahead and build the hub. Our central location where we would be able to unlock future researchers as well as our living quarters. After placing and exploring the hub, I then got slightly sidetracked by something that I spotted in the distance. Okay. What is that? I'm getting very distracted. I kind of want to jab this. There's something there too. What is that?
Hello.
No, come back. I want to be friends. Which was poor decision making on my part, considering that I jabbed it 2 seconds ago with a taser. Now, thankfully, by crafting the hub, I had access to the hub terminal, which would allow me to research future items. So I needed access to the equipment workshop and the portable miner. Thankfully, my hub also came with a crafting bench, which we were able to handcraft resources. So I made up a bunch of iron ingots so that I could get some iron rods and complete the first hub upgrade. So with those 10 iron rods, I was able to make my first hub upgrade, and I was greeted with a frame around our hub. Now with our first hub upgrade, I was then able to make the equipment workshop, which would be pivotal as we were going to need to make our equipment at this workshop. I then went ahead and made myself up a portable miner so that we could start to automate some of the mining going on, and I wouldn't have to do it by hand with a chisel. Okay, we've got our portable miner. Well, it just sits there, I guess. We've got an achievement for it. Place down a portable miner. Open the portable miner, 20 ore per minute. So do we have to take the ore from its inventory? Yes, you idiot. Otherwise, how else are we going to get the bloody ore to use? Thankfully, I figured that out pretty quickly. However, while the miner was also mining, I then went ahead and continued mining with my chisel so that we could make more of these portable miners. So with the iron ore that I had mined up and the portable miner, I had a bunch of iron ore that we spent to make iron ingots, which I then spent making the portable miners so that we could get those set up on various nodes. So I went ahead and distributed a portable miner on a limestone node that I had found as well, not realizing what we would need limestone limestone just yet for. I also committed an atrocity and murdered some of the local wildlife. I continued distributing my portable miners onto other various nodes that were in the area so that we could get more iron ore coming in. I then went ahead and accessed the second hub upgrade, which would actually give us access to the smelter as well as our first bout of power. Thankfully, I had the resources made up and I then had walls for my hub, which was very exciting considering I just had literally beams a second ago. However, the room was empty. I also got access to the biofuel generator. Now, this was going to be our first stint of power, so I gathered a bunch of leaves. I also got access to copper ingots, so I found a copper node and started mining that up with the portable miners as well. Hoping to get a bunch of copper ingots so that we could make the next tier of items and progress even further. After converting some of the copper ore into ingots and then wire, I was then able to build my first smelter, which would help automate all this resource production exponentially. So after converting all my ore into ingots and then the necessary materials, I was then able to get the hub upgrade 3 by handing all of these items in, giving a bunch of new buildings, new parts, as well as some scannable resources, and finally giving us a semi-proper hub to actually sleep in that we could use. We've got a sink, we have a shitter, we can put stuff down the toilet. I don't know if I necessarily want to do that just yet, but it's good to know. With the hub upgrade, I then also got access to power poles, which would allow us to split our power into 4 segments. So I powered up some smelters with copper ore and iron ore to hopefully try and get some automated production going by using the newly unlocked constructors that we had just gotten from the previous tier. After crafting the necessary parts, I was then able to make myself the constructor. Now, with the first constructor, I'd actually put some of the limestone that we had been mining into the constructor to make concrete, because I figured, well, we'd probably need some concrete somewhere down the line. But thankfully, our smelters were smelting up all the resources into bars rather effectively. So I was able to get a solid amount of concrete out of our first constructor, as I was going to need this for the next upgrade. Now, I had a bunch of iron ingots as well ready to go, and I wanted to place them in the constructor, so I went ahead and did that, and we were now producing the iron plates. I needed to drop off these resources into the final hub upgrade so that we could progress. However, I needed 75 of the iron plates as well as a bunch of cable and concrete. So I went ahead and just made the cable up by hand while my constructor was making the plates. Now that my iron plates had finished crafting up, I dropped them in to unlock hub upgrade 4, which actually gave us access to the conveyor belts as well as 3 extra inventory slots. We only had 1 more hub upgrade to go and we could finally move on to the real stuff. So with hub upgrade 5, I would get access to the Mark 1 miner, a storage container, and 3 more inventory slots. However, now that I had the conveyor belts, I would be able to, majority of the time, automate majority of the resources that we had coming in. So that's exactly what I did, hooking up my smelters into my constructors so that the ingots could flow straight into the constructor and we could create the resources that we needed. Now, after placing down another constructor, I was a little bit stumped because I had run out of connection points for the pulse, so I didn't really know how to power up this extra constructor. So I had built another power pole, but I couldn't figure out how to get the power over to this extra constructor because I did not realize that you could actually connect the power poles together and have branching power lines off of those power poles. So we kind of didn't use that constructor until I figured it out. I actually disconnected the power off some of the smelters so that we could power the constructor with my singular power pole. Looking back now, I'm a bit of an idiot, but do keep in mind I went into this completely blind. I had not watched any gameplay, anything like that. No tips and tricks videos, nothing. I was just raw dog. Thankfully, eventually I was able to get the 5th upgrade for the hub. After getting access to hub upgrade 5, we then had access to the automated miners. Now, I wanted to try and place this on the node, but for the life of me, I could not figure it out until I realized that I needed to break the iron ore nodule on top. However, I hadn't realized that at the time and obviously saw I was trying to hit that rock instead. It took me a solid amount of time to realize I needed to break that rock. What consists of clutter? Oh, is it this impure stuff? Start mining iron ore. Do I have to break this all up first? Surely not, right? Surely I'll be freaking yonks doing this. Or am I supposed to break this big nodule? Aha! I see. Okay, now will you let us build it? Oh, there we go. So I went ahead and set up a proper production line with the miner dropping off the iron ore into a smelter, the smelter dropping the iron ingots into a constructor, and that was fueled by one of our biofuel generators located on the hub. I was pretty happy with how I was progressing. I just wish I knew about the power thing earlier because I'm just an idiot. There was also the copper nodes in the back that we needed to get access to as well, so I just needed to get out there as well and set up a miner out there. I then went ahead and repeated this over on the copper node, checking our miner, our smelter, and our constructor down. Now I think I just got this one started on wire just for the time being, because that was pretty much all the copper stuff that we could make, and then I was just going to make the cable by hand at this current stage anyway. So I connected it all up, and then we were good to go for the copper side of things. It was then time to hook up the power. Now thankfully I did have the 2 biomass burners, so all I needed to do was chuck some wood into them, get them powered, and away we go. We had our iron side getting produced, and we had our copper side now getting produced. However, I still hadn't realized that you could connect up multiple power poles to one source of power. I was a little bit slow. Now, due to my problems with the power and not realizing I could have multiple outputs, I decided to handcraft the rest of the materials that I needed, such as the iron rods and concrete, so that I could hand those in for the next hub upgrade, which granted me a bunch of new buildings, new parts, as well as an achievement. And we were finally out of the tutorial for Satisfactory. Oh shit.
You have completed onboarding and achieved the absolute minimum skill level required of a Fix-It pioneer.
I appreciate that.
Fix-It
Thank you.
looks forward to your future achievements, because a future with Fix-It is a future with you.
So after completing the hub and then taking a look at our next milestone tiers, there was a lot of stuff going on. It was a little bit overwhelming, I'm not gonna lie. I did take a look through most of it, just seeing what we had available to us to unlock. There was a lot, but obviously the most logical sounding strategy to go with was to start with tier 1 and then go from there. So I took a look at the tier 1 milestones and decided to opt into the field research first, as we would get access to the map, which would be a huge help. I also needed to build the space elevator, which I had no idea how to do. Thankfully, I did manage to find it in the special section of building, and it needed a lot of resources that I was not at the stage of producing at the moment with my petty little tiny setup that I couldn't even figure out how to get proper power generation to. I then hooked up another constructor onto our iron rod line so we could actually start producing screws, as it seemed like we were going to need screws for everything. After a short while, I managed to grab the 300 screws that I needed to complete the field research, and this unlocked the map for us. So we were now able to view the entire map of the area. Obviously everything was darkened out, so we couldn't actually see anything, but at least we had a general idea of how big the map actually was. Yeah, we still had no idea how big the map actually was. We also unlocked the MAM, the object scanner, a personal storage box, and 3 extra inventory slots. Alright, next, I think we're just going to go with the logistics. I think we'll just learn everything as we go along. Now, I was already pretty close to unlocking the logistics milestone. I just needed to grab some extra resources, but I needed to figure out how to go about getting more constructors and miners set up with the power grid. I grabbed some extra iron rods that I had from my constructor that were used for the screws. For some reason, we just had a backup of them, probably because my maths wasn't the greatest and I didn't plan it properly. We also took a look at building the MAM, which is going to be our research hub, but we didn't have access to building it yet as we needed some more cable, so I had to get that up and running and some reinforced iron plates, and I was able to build the MAM. I had no idea what it did, but I was about to find out. Alien megafauna. Oh, this is what this does. It researches the stuff that we get. Stinger research rewards alien protein. Alien protein? Is that also alien protein? Yeah. Alien protein. Alien protein. We can study this. Start research. Oh, that was quick. Please choose a node tree. A new node in a tree to begin new analysis. Oh, fancy. It was then time to go on a journey. We're going on a journey to try and find some more ore so that we can... Ooh, what is this one? Is this sulfur? It is sulfur. Okay, cool. I'll take that. We're going to just do some exploration here, see what we can find out here. And hopefully find like a new area where we can set up, because I'm not entirely set on this mountainside area. After grabbing the sulfur, Ada informed me that we can actually research it back at the MAM to unlock future technologies and extra items. I then was set upon by a hog, which is good. We need your meat. Give me it, boy. Ouch. Yeah, that's right. That's what I thought, punk. Looks like we've got another new resource over here as well. What is this one? Raw quartz. Alright, cool. So it looks like we actually need to discover the materials to start researching them, which is a pretty cool thing.
Crystalline mineral collect.
What is that? Is that a snail? Blue power slug. What do we do with this guy? Gather a power slug. Okay.
This semi-slug species seems to persist entirely through absorbing and storing energy from
Does that mean we can use it to power stuff? That's cool.
Studying this
Oh, what is that? Wait, this isn't our crash site, is it? No, because we didn't start over here. Oh, we got some hogs here. G'day, fellas. After disposing of the hogs, I found various resources scattered around this debris. I had no idea what the debris was, as this was the first thing that I had come across so far. Oh, we can open the drop pod. Needs 40 milliwatts. Emergency door status repairs needed. Okay, so I'm assuming we need to build like a biomass burner. Now we're thinking. Will you do that? That bad boy's going? That bad boy's going. Alright, so it doesn't look like that would fix it then. Let's do a power line from there to there. Okay, looks like we got it working. Yeah, let's go. Pull the handle to open the door. Why am I struggling so much with this? There we go, we got it. What did we get? A dead person? Hard drive. Okay. Cool, I'll take it. I then went ahead and tried to feed some of the local wildlife on the way back to base. Okay. Oh, I thought I might like it. Bro, I hope this thing doesn't kill me. This isn't looking good for us. Keep eating the fruit. We're running out of fruit. Is it dead? I think it's dead. Oh, we got 3 hog remains. Yeah, that's definitely a male. I mean, he looks very cool. Should I attack it? I think... Oh, it's producing that gas again. Alright, let's get out of here. Whoa, we're going to die. After acquainting myself with the local wildlife, I managed to return back to my base and headed over to the man to start researching the basic resources that I had discovered while exploring, such as the sulfur and the quartz. It was then time to unlock the logistics milestone, which unlocks splitters and mergers for us, which would be absolutely pivotal for moving forward throughout the game. The next milestone that we wanted was the base building milestone, which had all of our foundations and walls that we would need in order to create level bases with actual structures on it. I then went ahead and set up another miner as well as constructor on the limestone so that we could start producing concrete very easily and automated. Now I also set up another biomass burner for this, once again not realizing the power situation and how actual power worked in the game. But hey, it was working for me for this early part, so I just rolled with it. I also grabbed the bioorganic properties, which gave me access to alien DNA and biomass, and then I launched the base building rocket milestone, so we then had access to foundations and walls, as well as a lookout tower. And then it was time to move on to tier 2. So we've got part assembly. So this looks like, yeah, craft 2 parts into another part, which gives us copper sheets, rotor, modular frames, and smart plating. I think I might get the clearing first. I don't think we necessarily need jump pads at the moment. Resource sink bonus. So after taking a look at the tier 2 items, I then went ahead and continued scoping out the map, where I found a bunch more iron ore nodes down here. Now these were impure ones, so they wouldn't give us the most amount of iron ore. There was also an island over there with a Mercersphere that we wanted to get over to, but this was a pretty nice flat open area, so I was thinking about maybe potentially moving the base out here, because there were more nodes over here as well. So we were actually going to put the main factory out here. I then went ahead and found myself a blue power slug as well nearby, so I grabbed that as well. I also found a bacon mushroom while I was out exploring, so I figured we'd grab that as well. And that actually unlocked the achievement for me, where we gathered one each of the food items. I then found myself a spitter. Whoa, what the hell is that? This thing hurts. What the fuck is it? Shooting fireballs at me and shit. What? Spitter remains. Alright, that was scary. We've also just found this thing, a Mercersphere. Now the Mercerspheres were alien technology left behind that we would later use down the line to craft some pretty cool technologies. While out exploring, I also found another new enemy. I had no idea what this thing was, but it actually spawned little bee drones. So these things were very strong and they did a lot of damage to you, so I needed to kill the hive to stop the bees from coming out. I then returned back to base, handing in the screws so that I could get the obstacle clearing research and get the chainsaw. I also went into the research tree and scanned a hard drive to unlock hopefully an alternate recipe that was better. And then I went ahead and made myself up the chainsaw. Oh shit. Look at that. So I spent some time gathering up the wood and leaves from various trees around the area and turning that into solid biofuel to fuel my generators. I then went ahead and also made the scanner so that we could detect objects that were nearby to us, such as the Mercerspheres, and as we unlocked more research, newer items. It was then time to take a look at what the hard drive scan had rewarded us. This was our first hard drive and I had no idea what these things would do. Turns out it actually gives us alternate recipes. So we had two options here, a Cjthecheesedj wire, which at the time I had no idea what the hell that was, or an extra 6 inventory slots. So obviously I went with the inventory slots because I had no idea what Cjthecheesedj wire was. Now I also had another hard drive, and looking back on it now, I really should have gone with the iron wire recipe, just so we could have phased out copper. I didn't do that, however, and we went for the fused copper wire instead. So I went ahead and took a look at some extra nodes of research that I could get. Unfortunately, there wasn't really anything aside from the quartz that we started researching, as we did have the 20 quartz crystals to unlock that tier of research, and that would then in turn unlock further tiers later down the line. In hindsight, I didn't really know what I was doing, to be completely honest. Like, I went into this completely blind, and there was a lot of stuff that I missed out early on that I should have really done, but I just didn't because I didn't know what I was doing. I also made some alien DNA capsules as well, so we could continue doing some of the alien megafauna research as well, because there was an area for extra inventory slots research that I wanted to grab, so obviously we could get more research. But I settled for the structural analysis research instead for the time being, so that I could eventually unlock the rebar gun. I then went ahead and placed a bunch of Mark 1 miners down on these impure iron nodes that we had found earlier, because I was going to get another iron area set up so that we could have a bunch of extra production coming in. So I got the smelters set up, and then I got the constructors laid out, and we were essentially going to use this area to create the iron products. So iron plates, rods, screws, and that was pretty much going to be this little section of the map right here. I then found something out in the wild. Oh my god, what is this little dude? Does he want some fruit? Where did he go? I want to pet the dog. I don't know where he went. I want to be friends with him. Oh, there he is. There he is. Hey, little guy. I got some fruit for you. Oh! Press E to pet the lizard doggo. No, come back. Be my friend. I'm going to keep patting you until you become my friend. What do I need to do to get you on my side? Please. Anything. He's making cute noises. I got nuts. I got fruit. I don't think I got anything. I got hog remains. You want some hog remains? I can't put them in my hand. I want the lizard doggo. He's so cute. What does H do? Oh, H puts the hand away. Be my friend, please. Is he following me? All right. I guess we're just going to have to leave him for the now. Alrighty. So I've just gone ahead and built this massive, well, I mean, not massive, but pretty big resource refinery sort of area. So what we're going to do is we're going to chuck some fuel in there. That bad boy should turn on, and what we're going to do is we are going to be getting copper ore. This is going to be getting turned into here into copper ingots. This bad boy will then turn that copper into wires, and then from the wires, we're going to get that branched up into here into cables, and then that cable is going to go into that storage shed. After setting up the copper refinery area, I then went out and gathered some wood and actually got the achievement for destroying 1,000 trees. So I was pretty happy about that. We needed a bunch more biofuel, so I went ahead and harvested up as much of it as I could, and then I decided to relocate the hub to a new central area. So this area was kind of in between the copper nodes that we had set up, those impure iron nodes, as well as our original area. So after harvesting all those trees, I then needed to obviously convert it all into solid biofuel. So I placed a crap ton of constructors down and got all that wood turned into the biomass, and then got that getting produced up into the solid biofuel. This was going to take a very long time because I had a lot of biomass. So the game plan now was to set up the assembler to hopefully start trying to make the smart plating that we needed. However, I also needed to rebuild the space elevator here in our new base spot. I say new base spot, it was literally like 150 meters down the way. Don't judge me too harshly. Alright, so we've got the assembler down. Now, first things first is I think we need to make a bunch of reinforced iron plates because we need those for the smart plating. And we also need to make a bunch of rotors. Alrighty, so we've got everything in here. We've hooked up some power. Let's get it going. And we should start seeing some rotors being produced, which is good. I then went ahead and placed another assembler down, and this time had it making reinforced iron plates. However, I realized I was going to need a butt ton of screws. So all those iron nodules that I had set up earlier down below were going to be turned into screw production so that we could get all these materials up and running. Alright, so we absolutely blitzed through our current resources. I thought we were looking pretty decent. So I went ahead and converted one of these constructors down in this iron area into another one that would produce screws. So now we had 2 constructors producing screws down here. All we needed to do now was wait for more screws to come in. And then it was time to start trying to make the smart plating. Now I only needed 50 of these for phase 1. So it wasn't going to be crazy difficult to do, but I did need a lot of reinforced iron plates for some of the other machines that we were going to need to craft, as well as other resources. So while the smart plating was getting made up, I then went and did some exploration, and I actually found a little coal nodule. Now, this wasn't one of the ones that were like dug into the earth, like the iron and the copper. It was just a normal node. So I broke it apart, getting some coal in the process, and just continued exploring. There were resources out here that we hadn't found before, such as some bauxite that we found. So I figured we were going to need this eventually at some point. I didn't know when exactly. And then I found a big heifer. Thankfully, I was able to defeat the big heifer, and then I was able to collect a yellow power slug that it was guarding. I continued exploring and actually came across another dropship. So that just meant more free resources and another hard drive for an alternate recipe. Thankfully, this one didn't require anything particular, so I was able to open it with a struggle and managed to claim the hard drive within. I then went ahead and spent some time cutting down these trees in this new biome and actually got a bunch of new resources that we hadn't come across before. So I was actually really excited about that. While exploring, I did come across some spiders, another mercer-sphere, as well as a blockage in our path. So I was kind of a little bit hindered at this stage. Okay, we've just found a cave sort of nestled here, hidden. I don't know if there's anything in here. I'm going to be a bit scared. What, mushrooms? Oh, it's just another mercer-sphere. Alright, we've just found another cave. This one looks much more ominous than the last cave we were in. Come back, you spider. Oh, there's a lot of them. Summer's Loop. Okay. Also slightly scary. Gather a Summer's Loop. We'll take those. I managed to find another drop ship and drop pod, I should say, and we managed to spend the 1 rotor it cost grabbing the hard drive located within, and just like that, we were sweet to go. Alrighty, we're back at the hub now. Pretty successful expedition. We got quite a lot of new resources, some new research stuff that we can do, which we're going to do right now. We also got some extra resources from those destroyed ships and some hard drives, so we're going to access those as well, and we can now get some more stuff. So I might actually, we honestly should have enough stuff to be able to make those cables, so I might make those. Alrighty, we've got our smart plating ready to go. We got 50 exactly. Where are they? Just there. So this will unlock the next tier of stuff for us. So let's see how this works. So we just chuck it in there. Cargo loaded. Sealing the container. Or was that it going up there? No. And then we send it to space.
Welcome to the Project Assembly Pioneer Progress presentation.
I guess we had to sit through a presentation.
The Phase 1 project hardship.
Oh, something happened. We got. I think the platform's bigger now. Oh, it's spinning. Oh, something's going on. Whoa. Whoa. Okay, that's cool. That is very cool.
Phase 1 of Project Assembly completed. This is only the beginning of Project Assembly, the first step towards saving the day.
Okay, that's really badass.
So far.
I mean, that was a really cool little tidbit. I wonder if the clouds come back or if it just permanently stays like that. Alright, well, I mean, I guess we've got to start unlocking our tier 3 and 4 stuff, I suppose. So after completing phase 1 of the space elevator, I figured it was time to place the awesome shop down, and I also had some research get finished from the hard drives that we had gone out and found. So our first one was some fine concrete or bolted frames. Now I wasn't really too sure on what one was the better option to go with, to be honest. Looking back at it now, knowing what I know, I would say that the bolted frame would probably be better, purely because of how much you need them, and I'm an idiot that decided to re-roll it and got cheap silica in the inventory slots. So obviously I went for the inventory slots because, well, you always need it, but I should have gone with the bolted frames in hindsight. I returned briefly back to the base to check the hard drive scan. We did get an iron wire or concrete, but I re-scanned it for the copper rotor and ended up taking the copper rotor. In hindsight, I should have gone for the iron wire once again. However, I figured that the copper rotors were going to be more substantial to our progression in the game, as we needed rotors for a lot of things. The two assemblers over here, one was producing the reinforced iron plates and the other was producing rotors, as I did need those for the smart plating, which is how we actually got the smart plating for phase 1 done. However, I figured since we got the new copper rotor recipe, we could switch over the rotors to that. I just needed to get the copper sheets first. However, before we went ahead and did all of that, I wanted to get the Logistics Mark II upgrade. So that's exactly what I did and completed that, getting the Mark II belts in the process. My maths has also been incredibly off this entire time. So I actually stopped for a second and looked at the output of resources that we were getting. So you can see here we're getting 60 copper ore per minute, right? But our smelter is only able to refine 30 per minute. So we're actually bottlenecking ourselves. So if we actually build another smelter, we should actually double our output of copper ingots. So now this should be super smooth and we should be generating a crap ton of copper ingots. Because it looks like, so now that we've got 60 per minute coming out here, this should all get refined and we shouldn't have a backup of copper ore. You can see that it's stabilized at like 6 and 7, so that'll constantly produce copper bars for us. So with the extra copper ingots that I was producing, I was then turning those into copper sheets at a constructor right next to the base. Why I didn't automate this, I'll have no idea, but this was what we were going to need in order to get the copper rotors, which was going to increase our output of rotors. So I then went ahead and took a look at the next milestone that we were going to try and get. I figured I'd try and complete tier 2, however the only thing missing was the jump pad, so I was like, let's just go for coal instead. Now coal was going to be our way to get into a solid amount of power production, because at the moment we were purely running on biofuel generators and I hadn't even set up a proper power grid with them. Everything was on its own isolated power grid because I hadn't actually figured out how power worked at this point. Alrighty, and we now have everything we need to get into coal power. Let's do that. Press the big red button and away we go. Before venturing out to try and find some coal, I figured I'd grab some research real quick. I did have enough stuff to grab 6 extra inventory slots, so I grabbed that as well. We're also going to research the Caterium ingots. I did then go ahead and go exploring to try and find some coal nodes, as we had reached that coal power generation. Thankfully, I did find a couple of coal nodes up here. They were only normal ones, however, they were guarded by a bloody spitter that was just hiding in the bushes, making my life difficult. I did also spot some extra coal nodes over in the distance. So in this area, there was quite a lot of coal. So I figured we could definitely set up some miners here and hopefully try and get into some sort of power generation, as we did also need water for our coal power generators. And thankfully there was a very small lake just here. So I figured this would be a pretty decent spot to build some coal power generators over here. So, as I had never really tested out the water extractors, I went ahead and decided to place one. Thankfully, I had all of the resources on hand, so that made things a lot easier. And I just wanted to also test the depth of the lake, and it looked like it would support the water extractor perfectly, so this was going to be a great location for our first little power grid. Bye! Now, I had gone ahead and built myself the water extractor / pump, and I also attached a pump to the pipeline just to make sure that the water was going to reach the location we were going to, because it was being pumped uphill slightly. The head lift was 5 meters, but I wasn't entirely sure how all of this would work, so I was just trying to cover all my bases and make sure everything was working correctly. I built myself the biomass burner, hooked up some power to the water extractor as well as the coal-powered generator over there, so that we could kickstart the system and get that up and running. Now, obviously, I hadn't actually put any power into the biomass burner yet, So thankfully it did kick on and we were producing some water from the water extractor now. So that was getting funneled into the coal powered generator, as you did need water and coal in order to make it work. So I had already set up the miners and attached them to the coal powered generator and to a storage system just in case, because like I said, I had no idea how any of this was going to work and whether or not we were going to get any power from this. Thankfully the pump wasn't really needed, but it was still placed there just in case. So I had set up a conveyor belt to ferry all of the coal coming straight out of the miner into the coal powered generator, and the miner is actually getting powered by the generator. However, I was considering moving to a different location and ferrying that coal via logistical belts. That was going to be a hell of a journey though. But I successfully managed to get my first coal powered generator up and running, which I was really happy about. Now, it wasn't really utilizing all this coal that we had coming out of the miners, but we were producing 75 megawatts for the singular generator, which was really good. I just needed to figure out a way to bump this up a little bit so that we actually had a decent amount of power coming out of it. Okay, so I think we have 2 coal generators now powered. This one is definitely holding. We're still producing 75 megawatts. This one isn't online yet, so let's bring this online, but it looks like we should be able to support all of that. Let's get this up and running. Okay, now production is saying 150 megawatts. Slightly confused? Is it because these two are now connected in the same grid? Yes, it is. Okay, that makes sense. So, whoa, this is mind-boggling. Congratulations, you just watched my brain break. At this point, I finally figured out that power grids could be all connected up by the power cables. Before this, I had no idea, so everything that needed power had their own individual biomass burner, and I finally figured out that you could actually do this and have everything on a single power grid. So what I did was I brought the power lines all the way back to our base area, and this was going to be connected up here. So we would have quite a bit of power to work with. Obviously 150 megawatts was significantly better than our little biomass burners that we had going on. And now I could actually set up a proper power grid for everything, which was genuinely mind-blowing for me. Okay, well, I went to take a piss and we died right in our base. Literally. We died. I went to take a whiz and I got killed by something. And I wasn't recording it. So that's fun. I have no idea what killed me. Oh. I heard something. Well, I think we just found out what killed me. Where did you come from, you little bastard? Okay, cool. Alright, well, I mean, that's, yep, that's something. I've also now think I've got a grasp on the power situation. I don't think I had the proper grasp on it before, because obviously, like, I was building tons of biomass burners, and I don't think I need to do that, because I was doing it because I didn't think we had enough power outputs, like, because of these poles. I thought you could only have one pole, but now I can see the errors of my mistakes, and we're trying to fix that. So we've got copper sheets getting produced like crazy out here. So while I was out exploring, I also managed to find some of these pure nodes. So we actually found 2 iron pure nodes as well as a copper pure node up here in this area of the map. Now it's pretty much on the left side where the huge body of water was. So I figured we could turn these areas into some sort of production line for each thing. I did have an idea that we could potentially use one of the iron ore nodes to create reinforced iron plates, as we had heaps of the iron ore out here to do exactly that. Okay, so our miner will be producing 120 ore per minute, which is quadruple the amount that we're producing back in our iron ore nodes back near the base. So that is crazy amounts of ore. I don't know what we're going to do with it all. All right, so this is what we have so far for utilizing this single iron node. I think I'm not even halfway done, to be honest. So the goal here, I need to go back to base to get some more cables. Goal here is we're going to pump out 120 bits of iron, 120 iron ores. That's going to get fed into these 3. Can you fuck off, you little spider bastard? Die. All right, that's taken care of. They're going to split off into this side. We're going to smelt it. So this will get smelted down. Over here, it'll then get transferred, and it'll get crafted into iron rods through these constructors. This will get fed through into this one. This will split off, and then we'll make the screws from there. We're going to repeat that 3 times. So we've got a lot of building to do. A lot of building. So after constructing all of the necessary buildings that we needed, it looked like our system was up and running. So our iron ore was getting pumped out at a decent rate. We hadn't hit any sort of bottleneck. It was all getting split up correctly. It was all getting smelted down correctly. It was all getting constructed into the necessary items that we needed, iron rods. And this was essentially, this whole site here was just going to be for screws. So it was just an absolute absurd amount of machines. And obviously I hadn't really built anything like this yet in Satisfactory. So I kind of didn't have a clue what I was doing. And it looked incredibly ugly. I apologize for that. It's going to get so much worse. Let's take a look at our max consumption now. Okay, so 129. So we've still got like 20 watts left, which is really good. All right, let's take a look in here. We're getting iron plates produced in here. We're getting iron rods. What we're going to do now is I think we'll set up a storage area for it all. Okay. This is much better screw production than what we've currently got going over there. I'm honestly tempted to just demolish everything over there because this very heavily shits on all of that. So we'll let the system run for a bit. All right, we're just grabbing the jump pad research because I think it's really going to help us get around, because having to run around to all these places is killing me. It's taking a lot of our time. So we can now make the jump pads. Okay, we built our first jump pad. I'm very excited to actually jump on these and see how they go. I totally just realized I could have set up a huge thingy of like biomass burners as well. Okay, not bad. So after setting up some jump pads in some select locations, I then figured it was time to tackle our power generation situation. And you can see down here, I did have some foundations that I was going to try and build with. And boy, did I build. Okay. One half is done. Wait. What have I done? 1, 2, 3, 4. No, that's right. So we've still got 1, 2, 3, 4 left. Okay. Woo. Slowly increasing the power grid. We've got... it's chaos. So we've got 8 coal generators. We'll have 3 water generators. And if my maths is correct... that should be enough to power all of them. Okay, we've run out of resources, so I'm going to need to go back to base anyway. I just hope that we've produced enough resources back at base that we don't need to worry about power, because I don't have any of it, because of my system shutdown from destroying the other the coal generator. This is not going very smoothly, I can tell you that much. And the spaghetti is real. I am trying my best to keep this as neat as possible, but it's just not working for me. So everything should be up and running. This should be pumping water into our coal generators. I hope. And we should start seeing coal coming through soon. I can see it on the belts, slowly making its way down here. This is so dodgy. Okay, we've got coal going into those. And then, yeah, we just need a splitter here. Are we working? I think we're working. 600 megawatt capacity production. Consuming 142.6 megawatts. I think we are working. I think we finally have a power grid. Woo! All right. That was a lot. That was not gonna lie, that was a lot. After getting the coal grid up, I then returned back to our iron production site, and we had a crap ton of resources ready to go. So I wanted to try and build vertically and get some assemblers together so that we could start making some reinforced iron plates. However, first up, I needed to actually build vertically. So that was going to be an ordeal in itself, and I wasn't really, I'm still really new to it all, so I was trying to figure out the best way to go about doing it. Eventually, I did decide, I didn't even need to provide a support for the foundation. I did settle on the 2-meter foundations, and I still had some space to actually go underneath it, so I figured this should be okay to use. Okay, well, this is the most scuffed design ever. I may have stuffed up the flooring, I may have stuffed up the foundations, I placed a bunch of the 2-meter foundations, not realizing the 1-meter foundations would have done the job just fine. So now I've got this super weird enclosed space just here. Resources are moving, which, I mean, this is good news. Everything is slowly going back into the storage container, coming out of the storage container. We did successfully manage to build a second story. I wouldn't say successfully. Maybe we just managed to build a second story, because if we follow this really scuffed conveyor belt around, you can see here that we've managed to build 3 extra conveyors, assemblers. I got there in the end. 3 extra assemblers, each one assembling reinforced plates. So they're all building reinforced iron plates, which is running a little bit slow. So after getting the reinforced iron production up and running, I then returned back to base to research the overclock production. Now, this was actually going to allow us to overclock our constructors and miners to actually produce more resources if I wanted to. So that was actually going to be a really big thing. You can see here our clock speed was only at 100% on the base rate of the machines. But if we put the actual capsule in, we could actually increase that. We could also decrease it without the capsule if we wanted to sort of stabilize our system and utilize all the resources in the area. I also went ahead and researched the yellow power slugs as well, so that we could get those guys and turn them into power capsules as well. I then went ahead and built myself another assembler so that I could go ahead and start making some modular frames, because they were going to be the next big thing that we needed. And obviously you could see there, I needed 50 of those for the basic steel production. So I needed to get those up and running. Okay, so it's been about a day and we're returning back to our little factory over here. How are we looking? 118 plates in there. That's not bad for a day's work. 118 in there, so I'm assuming the last one is also going to have 118 in it. So I then went ahead and tapped into the other pure iron node further up the hill a little bit, but I actually just found a third pure iron node here as well. Now, the goal for this secondary iron pure node was going to be purely for reinforced iron plates, as I was going to turn the first lot into a section to make modular frames, actually. So that way we would have modular frames coming in, and we would also have the reinforced iron plates coming out. We should be getting screws in much faster now. Cool, so we've got another iron plate production line going on, which is wonderful. You love to see it. I need to figure out how I'm going to store it all. But we've got now 2 production lines for iron plates, reinforced iron plates. We're going to need them because we're going to need them for the modulars. So I'm happy about that. Alrighty, we now have the means to get into basic steel production. We've got the modular frame, we got the concrete. Let's launch that bad boy. We now have access to basic steel production. Oh my gosh, I'm not ready for it. So we can now make basic steel. So what we're going to do is we're going to head, I think there was a coal node that was pure somewhere on this floating island over here. We're going to build a jump pad. Yeah, that looks like, yeah, we'll make it. All right, let's test it out. Hopefully we don't die. Oh god, that was so nerve-wracking. We've got a power slug here as well. Wonderful. I'm going to get knocked off the edge, you watch. Oh yeah, that was close. You almost got me, you bastard. Have a fun trip. So I spent some time exploring this island. I actually managed to find a drop pod out here, as well as some more modular frames, so I was pretty happy about that. However, it was guarded by some of the hogs, but I mean, that didn't really stop us. We're a madman killing machine with our little Xeno Zapper. I was hoping we could get something a little bit stronger, but thankfully I was able to get into the drop pod after a long time struggling to open the damn thing, grabbing myself the coveted hard drive. I then also stumbled upon another summer sloop over here. However, it did look slightly different because it was wrapped up in the roots. I hadn't realized that I had already discovered one of these, but it was still nonetheless a very cool find. I also found a blue power slug over here on the island, as well as a pure Cterium ore node. However, this was covered by a boulder, so I wouldn't be able to get into it exactly straight away. So with our pure coal node discovered, I got the miner on it, I got a conveyor belt leading back across to the mainland, and I was hoping that we could get this coal hooked up to get our steel production online. Cool. So our coal's coming in, we've got our iron ores coming in. What I ended up doing was just using, I'll show you because it's easier that way. We ended up just using the 2 iron nodes up the top here. You can see that the iron ore is coming down. So we overclocked those to produce 60 per minute. So we've got 2 of those lines coming down. They are converging here on a merger with 120 because we've got the Mark II conveyor belt. So that's able to handle all the resources coming in. Although we'll back up a little bit once we get this full. You can see there, it's pretty much already there. And just like that, we had steel ingots coming out of our foundry. Now, what the hell were we going to do with these steel ingots? I still had no idea the answer to that. Obviously, I was going to need to build some constructors, and we had a couple of options. We could make steel beams or steel pipes. Obviously, I was going to need both of those, so I figured we'd start with some constructors and get those going first. Alright, and just like that, we've got steel resources being produced. Wonderful. I don't think anything is struggling with production at the moment. I would say steel beams are probably the more important one. But it does look like the system is keeping up with it. Oh, we got a bit of idleness just there. I then went ahead and overclocked our foundry to 250% with some power cores. So this was going to increase our amount of steel ingots getting produced up to 112.5 per minute, which was going to stabilize and come out the other end into our 3 constructors that we had the steel pipes and the steel beams coming into. So after letting the factories run for a while I was setting up all the steel production, we had come back to a decent amount of reinforced iron plates in our storage containers, which I was pretty happy about. It seemed like our system was working rather efficiently. We weren't running out of resources anywhere, so I was pretty happy with how everything was looking. I just needed to get some modular frame production properly set up because at the moment it wasn't. So that's exactly what I went ahead and did. I built another assembler, set this to the modular frames, and then I had the reinforced iron plates and the iron rods coming into here so that we could get 2 modular frames per minute coming out, and this was going to be pivotal. At this moment, I hadn't realized that we were going to need modular frames throughout the entirety of the game, because once you get the modular frames, they then turn into the heavy modular frames. So I didn't realize that was the case, so I would need to come back and visit that. But I went ahead and took a look at the tractor, which was a new tier that we had researched, because I figured we would be able to use that to A, get around, and B, hopefully transport materials in between base locations and stuff like that to try and save us some time from getting around, having to walk around a lot. It was just going to take us a very long time. I also went ahead and started trying to fill in the Fix-It Blueprint Designer, which I was able to complete, and I built that bad boy up so that we could potentially get into some blueprints to make our lives a little bit easier when it came to constructing new factories. When in hindsight, I think I used the Blueprint Designer like a total of like 3 or 4 times. I was still figuring everything out and I wasn't very good at it. Let's just put it like that. But now that I had got into steel and I was getting a decent amount of steel production going on, I was able to go ahead and complete a lot of these milestone tiers so that we could unlock new buildings, new structures, and just a whole heap of upgrades for ourselves as well. We were making a crap ton of steel beams and steel pipes, so we were pretty sweet in that department. Alrighty, and we are sending Logistics Mach 3. Boom. Send that bad boy away as well. We are on smashing things right now. And we can chuck that in there, and advanced steel production we are ready for. So after taking a look at what I needed for the encased industrial beams, I needed the steel beams and concrete, which wasn't too difficult to come across. We had plenty of concrete available. We did have some nodes nearby, and we had plenty of steel beams. So I chucked it all into an assembler and got some encased industrial beams coming out the other end. I also chucked down some storage so that we had a place for it to all go. And just like that, we had started getting our encased industrial beams. Now, obviously, this wasn't really a factory. This was me just being like not as lazy as possible, but just like not upscaling or anything like that, only producing the bare minimum and kind of just letting it run so that we would get the resources coming in. I was still figuring it all out. I hadn't really tussled with this game before. I do regret not building big factories though for it. What are we looking for? That. Let's get that in there and hit that big red button. Thankfully, it doesn't look like the hypertubes themselves are all that expensive. Copper sheeting and the pipes, which is actually pretty good. I'll take that. We should be able to design something to get over to our other area. So that's exactly what I did and got my first hypertube system up and running. Oh, this is cool. Oh my god, we're under the ground. Okay. So this is this is hurting my head to watch. It definitely works. This is much quicker than having to walk there on foot. Oh my god, is that nice. Okay, that was cool. We needed to come back to base because we needed more of the pipes to actually get back over to that factory. So thankfully, we could get back here super quickly. I will take that. That was so much fun. Okay, so our hypertube entrance is all set up. So honestly, I don't think we need to even worry about trying to get some of this stuff back over to our base. I think having that hypertube just makes our life So much easier. So after building my hypertube network, I decided to make my way up the coast to see what I could find, where I found a bunch of different stuff up here, as well as some caves. A giant freaking spider, which no one ever wants to bloody come into contact with. These things are freaking horrifying and terrifying, and they're so fast. Thankfully, I was able to kill it with my brand new Xeno Basher weapon, so I didn't really have too many issues. It did almost kill us though. And then we found more things. Now, this time I was just trying to get away from the charger because I did not want to deal with it. However, there was a yellow power slug that I had to try and collect, but also dodge all the killer bloody things coming after me. Thankfully, I made it back to my small factory and I was able to dodge dying from it. However, the alpha version of the charger decided he wasn't done trying to kill me. So I was trying to dance in between all my machines, trying to kill this guy while also not dying because I had no food items on me. It was a dangerous, precarious situation that I found myself in. Little bitch. I'm sorry, I take it back. Oh, he's in our factory. Take it back. We're dead. I'm running. I'm running. Well, that worked out well. I can't believe he followed me all the way back here. Alrighty, so I've been busy building a staircase, essentially, up to the sulfur deposit. I don't know if it's going to work. I probably could have done this a lot easier in a way. Probably could have used the hypertube system, but, well, I ain't the smartest, so we didn't do that. But I just wanted to see what was up here to begin with. Come on, I'm not going to make it. I'm going to die. Alright, we've got a set jump pad here. I'm really invested in trying to find this copper. This sulfur. We're 80 meters away. We've got to be close, surely. I hope it's not higher than this, because I'm running. Have I just got myself stuck? No, we're fine. Oh, it is a pure untapped sulfur node. Look at that. I don't think I have enough stuff to actually make this. I don't think I can make a miner. I'll leave it for now, because we're going to have to hook up power and all that sort of stuff. At least I know it's up here, so we can get access to it. I don't know if it's worth us grabbing like a whole heap just while we're here, just to take back for any research that we might have. I think I might do that real quick. Okay, so we have access to the sulfur deposit up here. I don't know if I have access to get down. We're going to try and do our best here. And leap of faith. Oh god, that's terrifying. Yeah, we're fine. Oh god, no we're not. That was a lot of damage. I really want that bug as well. I also realized I've built this with foundations when I could have just used ramps and it would have been probably a hell of a lot easier. So after my little expedition to try and find the sulfur, I decided it was time to build a new factory. So I went out over the top of this water, a huge open area where we could build plenty of foundations, and I got to work at setting everything up. I wanted to try and bring those pure nodes over here and have it all laid out nice and flat and easy, which is exactly what I did. Now this did take quite a long time to do. It took me a few days to get all of this set up as I was trying to figure out the maths of everything, and obviously still not learning everything about the game that there was. But I was able to get the copper refinery set up that I wanted. I also managed to build 5 kilometers of conveyor belts, which was pretty cool, considering how many conveyor belts I had been building everywhere. This achievement made sense. Alrighty, so I've gone ahead and built some factory on an actual open plane, and this actually doesn't look like absolute spaghetti and nightmare like those over there, and I'm really honestly tempted to try and sort all that out and bring that over here, because it's pretty much fundamentally the same sort of thing. We just have to redo everything, which might take us a little bit of time, but like, look at how nice this looks. Does this not look nice? So this is going to be our copper one. So we've got 2 intakes. We've got one here. We've got the other one just here and there. And pretty much what we'll be doing is running copper into this. We're going to be producing everything on the copper tiers at the moment. So copper sheets, we've got wire, we've got cabling, and that should split between all of it, hopefully. So we're just going to get that wire, the copper connected that's just over there, and then we can go from there. Alrighty guys, here we go. We are set. Hopefully this works. We've got the line ready to go. We just got to hook the miner up. Miner is hooked up. This should be producing 120 copper ore per minute. Okay, system is running so far. It appears everything is going through. Everything is powered. Okay. We've got a full set of copper up and running. Although maybe, I'm not sure why it's splitting. that. Maybe I don't need that splitter. Because that's a merger, isn't it? Yeah, that's a merger. So after setting up that mini copper factory, I then returned back to the base to take a look at how our steel production was going. And, well, we had a storage container full of steel pipes as well as the steel beams. So I was kind of a little bit unaware that we had so much going on back there, but I also made up some black powder so that we could hopefully get into nobelisks, which would allow us to blow things up. So that's exactly what I did, researching the Nobelisk detonator and making up a bunch of silica as well out of the crystals so that I could continue some research that I hadn't gotten yet, because idiot me had realized that there was actually something we could make that would increase my movement speed exponentially, but I needed quartz for that. So I needed to get that, but thankfully I was able to make the blade runners, and we could now move a little bit quicker, jump a little bit higher, and take a lot less fall damage. So I made up the blade runners, I made up some nobelisks, and I also went ahead and made up the nobelisk detonator as well. You just put them on the legs? Oh yeah, okay. Oh shit. We move. Let's see if we take fall damage from the jump pads now. A little bit, but not as much as we would normally take. We move very fast now. This is very nice. You right there, Mr. Bean? I also went ahead and built a hypertube network out to where our pure nodes were on the left side, where we had our new factory being built over the water. This was just going to save us so much time traveling out there. I'm really glad that I built these hypertube networks, I tell you what. So after connecting up the hypertube network, I then went ahead and started planning out the next coal factory power plant that I was going to build. So obviously we only had built this smaller version over here, so I wanted to expand on this and make this double that size so that we would have even more power coming in. So I laid down the foundations. I was going to try and make it a little bit neater than this, and I got to work at trying to build it all. Hopefully these just all snap into place now, and we can literally just chuck a bunch of them down. Which looks to be working pretty effectively. Oh, we're fine. 16. Okay. So we officially have 16 coal-powered generators. That's another 1,200 megawatts. I feel like that's a solid amount of power to have. It's kind of pleasing to look at, I'm not going to lie. Although we're not going to question how those are standing up over there. We'll probably build some foundations real quick, just to make it look like we have some support over there. And we're going to need to anyway for the coal generating. Okay. All 6 of our water extractors are now built. Okay. Everything is hooked up. Look at that. Does that not look pretty as? Let's connect these bad boys up, and then we just need to get some power going. I really hope all of this works. I've just finished setting up the belts for all the coal to go into the first 8 generators. Whether or not this will work for the other 8, we will find out. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, there are 8 more. So after laying these splitters down and getting some belts up and running, I was having some issues with the coal passing through some of the splitters. Sometimes it would just stop and sometimes it would go through. So I went ahead and demolished most of the splitters and some of the belts just to figure out what was going on, to hopefully fix the issue that we were having and hopefully get this coal brought over to all our generators. Alright, this Bean's having a little bit of a glitch party over here. I'm not sure what's going on, but he's having a good time, I think. Oh god. Bounce on a space giraffe tick penguin thing. I don't know if I would call that bouncing, but sure, I will take that. So while trying to hook up the new power grid, I may have accidentally blown a fuse and shut down my entire power grid while trying to get the water pumps up and running. Yep. That is probably all our power gone bye-bye. Yes, it is. So what I had to do was set up some biomass burners so that they could supplement our power slightly until we got our new grid online. So that's exactly what I did, building a couple of biomass burners, getting enough energy into the water pump so that they would pump some water into our coal generators, and the coal was already getting filtered in. I just needed to jumpstart the system. So I hooked up these biomass burners to the water pumps to try and get the coal generators up and running. Alright, it looks like our buildings are pretty much full of water now. So now we just need to try and hook them up to some power. So I went ahead and disconnected the electricity from the water pumps and hooked them back up to the coal generators instead to fuel the power. So then from here, should I be able to do that? And then I can do that. All right, we're getting power. They're slowly turning on. Now, I did run into a slight hitch. It was only showing that I was producing 750 megawatts, which I should be producing double that. So something had gone wrong and I needed to figure out it to fix it. My guess was I had the power lines crossed wrong. And then I think this is the one that needs to be connected to our main grid. Thankfully, I found the problem, fixed up the power line, and we were now producing the right amount of electricity for all our coal generators. I was really happy about the amount of power we had coming in now. I then returned back to the base, and on the way back, I just decided to admire my handiwork. I really liked how this second coal generating facility turned out, much better than our first attempt, and that was an absolute nightmare with how we got everything laid out. I thought this one turned out so much better, and I was slowly learning how to actually properly make things. Back at the base, I was working on trying to get smart plating up and running. We needed about 1,000 of them, so that consisted of me going everywhere, getting my rotors, getting my reinforced iron plates, chucking that into the assembler to make the smart plating. I hadn't really automated this. It was pretty much just me moving things around into storage boxes, having these storage boxes then go into the assembler, and filling up the storage boxes when they would run out. It kind of worked for the purposes that I needed it to. It was just a bit of a slow process that I could have obviously optimized much better, but I was slowly getting the smart plating produced. I was going to run into issues later down the line though. I also wanted to get the versatile networks and the automated wiring up and running. However, the versatile framework was going to be first, as I did have some modular frames being produced and we had plenty of the steel beams being produced. So once again, I set up another assembler, got some storage boxes hooked up to it, and had those fed into the assembler so that we could produce it. I also spent some time getting some extra research on the experimental power generation, unlocking compacted coal, and later down the line, rocket fuel. I also returned to my other factory, and it was producing a crap ton of modular frames as well for us, which was really good. Now, my only downside was not having an extra storage site for these resources, as it was going to fill up. Now, our new site as well with the copper was producing things wonderfully. We had full storage containers of copper sheets, cabling, and wiring, which was going swimmingly. So after checking all the factories, I decided to once again do some more exploration up the coast. I wanted to grab some Mercer spheres so that I could get into dimensional storage. However, in order to get the Mercer spheres, you normally had to kill the local wildlife. So all these hatching things were a pain in the butt. The little bees that they spawn, an absolute menace to society. Thankfully, I was able to defeat them, grabbing Mercer spheres along the way. And as well as that, I also found a couple new drop pods that we were able to get some hard drives from as well. I obviously had to defeat the alpha spitters that were here and everything, but I was able to get the hard drives and the Mercer spheres located at various locations. I also found some power slugs here and there as well, so just all around, just a general exploration for more stuff before dying to the stupid bloody bees. While exploring, I also found a really cool mushroom cave. It was like bioluminescent mushroom and everything, so I grabbed some of the mycelia before finding more power slugs in the area, including a yellow one and a blue one. So obviously I gathered those guys up as well. I then continued further up the coast, discovering more Mercer spheres as well as some crude oil nodes up here. So I figured this would be a pretty decent spot to set up some oil production once we eventually got around to it. I also found what appeared to be a doggo nest. There were 2 of these dogs on a nest with some resources around it, as well as what I could only assume is a pioneer helmet, which is slightly sus. Ada did say we were the only ones that were on this planet, and obviously there's a dead person's helmet just here, so I was a little bit concerned, but we did unlock an extra helmet in the process as well, before returning back to the factory. So upon returning back to the factory, I really wanted to set up a sort of basic iron production next to our copper that we had set up. So something that would produce our iron plates, our iron rods, screws, just the basic stuff that we had set up over in the first area. I just kind of wanted to get it refined and looking nicely. We had 3 pure iron nodes over here, so I figured we could definitely do that and have it set up next to the copper so that it would look really nice. And that's exactly what I set out to do after I had organized a few things. We really need to find the SAM analysis stuff. We can't find it anywhere. I haven't found it anywhere, but we really need to find it because it's really hindering our alien tech progress that we could be researching, which is kind of annoying, but I mean, it is what it is. Hopefully we can find some nearby. All right, and we're just going to finish off our power infrastructure research. That's done. So we've got some new buildings now. I'm not entirely sure. So power tower, tower platform, and then power storage. So after completing that research, I then begun the work on getting our iron line set up and running. So I placed these smelters down first. I did want everything to line up nicely with where we had placed the copper stuff previously, just for that little nicety stuff going forward. And I had all these smelters placed. I went and figured I'd give myself a shot on the blueprint designer to see if I could save some time at producing the buildings that we needed to get this iron stuff up and running. I figured this would be able to help us. I did make some blueprints, but I didn't really utilize this device to the best of its ability. I just wasn't really, honestly, smart enough to come up with anything that would bloody work, to be completely honest. Alrighty, so this is going to be our 4 smelter. So we could essentially double this up once we get into the maths of things and actually see if we need to ramp up production or anything like that. So essentially what we've got is we've got our splitters split between our 4 smelters. So that'll be channeling our iron ore in, or our coal. That'll get smelted up, it'll come into these mergers, and it'll all come out this way. In between building everything at the new factory, I did head back to check on our hard drive situation. We did get a rigger motor or a solid steel ingot. At the time, I wasn't really too sure what to go with, but I did end up picking the rigger motor later down the line. I also wanted to check on all of our structures to make sure everything was being produced. Thankfully, everything was. Our steel beams were getting funneled into 2 different constructors, and they were being led, one into a storage box, and that was being led into an assembler that was producing our versatile frameworks, with the modular framework being introduced into that system. So you can see over here all these steel beams coming down to this assembler, and this was making our versatile framework with the modular frames, which had a storage box hooked up to it. So I was pretty happy with how that was progressing. It was just taking a little bit of time, but that's all good. It was doing its job. I just needed to get a proper factory set up so we could produce this quicker. Alrighty, so here is what we've done. Now we're going to tap into that iron ore node over there, that pure one, and this is all going to get funneled into here. We've got our smelters. Oh, I swear to God, have I put them the wrong way? What's the output? Hold on. Have I put these the wrong bloody way around? I think I have. Oh, they're in reverse. That's so annoying. Okay, I don't know why, but for some reason we've had it placed the right way and it's just gone ahead and done it the complete opposite way. So I don't know why that's doing that for, but it's very annoying. We're going to just have to dismantle everything again. I don't want to have to keep doing this. It's very annoying, but I mean, I don't have much of a choice, do I? Okay. I'm praying that's the right way bloody around. I think it is. Perfect. Okay. And then we've got running this through to this bad boy. So that's going to smelt all our iron ingots. It's going to get fed into these constructors. These constructors have already been preset. So we've got iron plates, we've got screws, and then the iron rods. And then the iron plates are getting fed into this one. This is getting turned into reinforced iron plates. Over here, we've got rotors. I know we've got the alternate recipe for copper sheets into the rotors. I'm just not entirely sure how we want to implement that because the screw factor, I don't know. We're going to just get this basic one set up and then I can try and fiddle with the actual way to implement our alternate recipe. And then this one is also set to a rotor as well. And then what we're going to do is these are going to feed out into here. And then we're going to run these bad boys out into another system that we're going to be building right now. Alrighty, so while we were setting up that new actual smart plating logistics line sort of thing, we actually have now enough smart plating to complete phase 2, the amount we have. You can see here this box is pretty much filled up, so we're going to grab all of this and we're going to chuck it into our space elevator. The versatile framework coming along slowly. I think we've got about 500 of it, so we should have enough by the time we go about actually setting all of that up, because I don't actually know if after this phase we actually need more of these things, or if it's just this lot and then that's it. I'm not entirely sure. We'll find out once we unlock it, I guess. So I went ahead and hooked up the iron ore to our system, getting it all funneling in. I did upgrade the belt a little bit so that we could get the iron ore moving a little bit faster through everything, and thankfully it was all feeding into the smelters without issues. However, there was a slight problem that I didn't account for that we'll slowly discover in the near future. We don't. Have I messed this up? Potentially, because we have that set to screws, but we have no iron rods coming into it. What have I done? I've missed a very key step, I think. I've missed a very key step. We're not getting any iron rods coming in to make these screws. So these should be set to iron rods, but I've misplaced some constructors by the looks of it because we've got no screws coming in. And I'm a dum-dum. And this whole system is now not going to work, and I really don't want to try and fix it because it hurts my head. So our options here are to cry under a corner in a hole as far away from people as we can, or try and fix this. And honestly, I'm of the mind of not bothering to fix it, but I think we can fix it. I then went ahead and got some stators set up using some steel pipes in a storage container and some copper wire coming in. Then with these stators, I then hooked up with some cabling so that we could get those producing some of the automated wiring that we were going to need for our phase 2 production. Now I had 2 of these bad boys set up as these were going to take quite a long time to produce. So I wanted to get it set up as soon as possible and have as much of this produced as quick as possible. Alrighty, and just like that, we've got our first lot of automated wiring coming in. Wonderful. I then went ahead and completed the last of my smart plating for phase 2. So we were looking pretty good right now. I also just figured out we could also paint our equipment. So I'm honestly, I'm going to demolish all of that. It's giving me the shits. We want to go check out these 2 drop pods that we found out here. I also want to get the sulfur mine up and running so we can get sulfur coming in. So I headed out to the drop pod, claiming my prize of the hard drive. I needed to hook up some power to this one, which was easy enough as I did have power in the area. I did struggle to get the bloody lever down. I don't know what it is with these freaking levers. It takes me multiple attempts every damn time. Was able to grab the drop pod, also a Mercer sphere as well in the process, and then I wanted to set up the sulfur mine so that I could get sulfur coming in. So I headed up my very dodgy makeshift ramp, missing the jump pad. I can't believe I missed that jump. Oh, how am I still alive? No way. We survived. We got an achievement. I'll take it. Let's just heal the fuck up before something eats me. Alrighty, we've now got sulfur ore production. It's a very long line all the way from the mountain up there, but it's coming into this storage box. I don't know what we're going to do with it just yet, but hey, we've got it. That's what bloody matters. So I'll happily take that. We're going to head over to this section. We're going to grab our smart wiring. We're going to head back to our space elevator, and then we're going to chuck the versatile framework and the smart wiring in, and that should get us to phase 2 completion. So I went ahead and dropped off the items that I had for the space elevator, and then I decided I was going to go exploring again. Now, I hadn't really explored the eastern side of the map, so I figured that was a good place as any to start. So I made my way out there, finding myself in a cave full of these damn spiders. These things just love to pop up on me and bloody try and eat me whenever they got the opportunity to. So thankfully I was able to dispose of the stingers that were attacking me initially in this cave, and I made my way further in, finding myself an alpha stinger, which is, you don't want that. You don't want that for yourself. I also found a purple power slug, which was my first purple one that I found. I was pretty excited about this, to be completely honest. I also found a bunch more mushrooms as well as a uranium deposit over here. So eventually it looked like you could actually get into like nuclear style of things, because we were taking a lot of radiation damage from it. So this was a pretty cool find in this cave. At least we had a source of uranium if we eventually made it up to this point in the game. I did find another alpha stinger as well that I dealt with while being on very low HP. Thankfully I was able to dispose of it while having a singular piece of HP left on my bar. I thankfully brought out my Nobelisks and decided to blow up the spiders that were still here. I completely forgot that I had my Nobelisk, and that was able to deal with those guys relatively easy. After making my way through the cave, we eventually found a new-ish sort of area. There was some new plants out here, some new resources that I hadn't really found before, so I was pretty excited about that. It did look very nice out here. and obviously it was a new section of the map that I hadn't really had a chance to explore yet. However, this side was not without its perils. No, that's the wrong one. Oh, we're gonna die out here. I don't really want to run back out here to get my body. Oh, it's the worst. Okay, we got some more uranium ore there. We're getting attacked by everything under the sun. I just stumbled across more of them. Wonderful. Lose them in the water. Well, this is not going to be fun to get back to. That's for sure. So I began the long ass slog back to the place of my death with minimal tools and weapons, but thankfully I was able to make it. However, I didn't think my body bag was still here. I just couldn't find it. I was able to find it and I just swam out into the water because I did not want to deal with what waited me back on that little islandy bit. So I continued exploring, managing to find some like steam vents, some nitrogen gas, which I was like, what the hell do we use this for? I figured this was something we would figure out later down the line once we unlock more technology. I also grabbed whatever Mercer spheres that I came across, as well as any other collectibles as well.
I just called the Fix-It doctors. They told me there is definitely no danger from repeat exposure to these signals. In fact, they said it is good for you. I apologize, but the call dropped suddenly, otherwise they would have told you themselves. The good news is you should run towards these strange and dangerous looking objects whenever you find them. Doctor's orders.
So I continued exploring, finding myself what seemed to be a new biome with like dead coral or dry coral without the ocean, which was pretty cool. I also found some geysers as well that were pure. Don't know what the hell we're going to use geysers for, but they're there. I found some more Mercer spheres, and then I continued exploring. Now, there was a cave that I had seen while I was setting up the coal node on that island across from us, near us. So I figured I'd go out there and actually check this cave out because I just had a weird feeling about what we would find in there. I hadn't checked it before, so I figured we'd go take a look. Now, it was guarded by these poisonous spire things, I guess, but thankfully I did have the nobelisks that we could use to blow these up and get down to what hid in the depths. Oh, what is that? Oh, we found it. This is what we've been looking for. Oh, I don't know if I have enough stuff to make a miner and then ferry it out here. This is the stuff we've been looking for. Miner? Oh, I don't have the iron plates. Alright, this is awesome. So, we need to get a miner down here ASAP and then obviously run a conveyor belt out here. Hell, I might even just chuck down a Mark II miner because I feel like we're going to need a lot of sand for stuff. I just want to make sure we get enough that we can research stuff. I don't know as well if I blow up these plant things here, if they'll stay blown up. Alright, we are going to go ahead and research it because we finally can. Let's go. That's so exciting. Alright, what do we got? Reanimated Sam fluctuator. And then that's how we get this stuff. So I went ahead and grabbed the necessary research that I could grab. I also researched the purple power slug, which would enable us to turn purple slugs into 3 power shards, which is going to be great. And then we obviously had the synthetic power shards, which we didn't have the capacity to make at the moment, as we did need the time crystals. No idea where the hell we get those from. But we had managed to make enough versatile frameworks as well to complete phase 2 of the space elevator. Everything was slowly coming together now that the fact that we had found that SAM resource so that we could finally get into alien technology. We completed phase 2 of the space elevator and sat back and watched as Ada briefed us on phase 3.
The Project Assembly Pioneer Progress
Let's go full view.
presentation.
Why not?
Congratulations, the phase 2 project part shipment is now ready for delivery. On delivery, phase 2 will be completed and the construction dock will be constructed. After completion of phase 2, the technologies
Oil
of
production,
TS5
railway
and 6 will
transport,
become
jetpack.
available in the hub.
That sounds exciting.
These might feel intimidating after your previous experience, but rest assured that you would not be here if
Thank you,
were
Ada.
entirely incompetent. Highlights are oil production, railway transportation, the jetpack, and many more. Completing phase 3 of Project Assembly.
Oh
is your
god,
next
versatile
major
framework, modular
Just
engine and
remember to
adaptive
focus
control
on
unit.
Producing and delivering the project parts, and Fix-It's faith in you will be strengthened.
Oh, that's cool.
Phase 2 of project assembly completed. You have been performing more adequately under pressure and are closer than ever to saving the day. Perhaps you were the right choice for the job. Time will tell.
Alright, that's cool. That is very cool. Alright, so we need 2,500 versatile frameworks. We really need to get producing that properly, because our method isn't really going to work out very well, I don't think. Let's take a look at our new research. We've got tier 5 and tier 6 stuff. We've got the jetpack. That's exciting. All the jetpack. We've got oil processing. Holy smokes, look at all of that. Oh, that's very scary. Logistics Mark IV. This sounds cool. I haven't even used our truck from this one. Our tractor. I could never figure out how to actually get it started. So we've got oil, fluid packaging. We can make water. What have I gotten myself into? This is scary. This is very scary. Industrial manufacturing. So we've got a manufacturer now. 3 or 4 parts into another part. We've got computer, heavy modular frame, modular engine, which we need 500 of, and adaptive control unit. We need 100 of those. Oh god. Monorail. We've got trains, railway signaling, pipelines, and then the blueprint maker Mark II. Yeah, alright, that's a little bit overwhelming. So after checking out all the new research, I then went back down into the cave to set up a miner on the SAM resource and to get that pumped out of this cave system. I was going to try and process it on the surface instead of leaving the system in the mine. So that's exactly what I did, getting myself a constructor, getting some reanimated SAM up and running, and getting that processed into some storage containers. Now, this was going to be needed for future research as well. I figured I could just sink it for extra points as well, because we had 2 constructors producing this as we had so much of it coming in. I then went ahead and learned the SAM fluctuator recipe through the research, which would allow us to unlock the dimensional depot, which would actually allow us to store resources in these depots and be able to utilize them wherever we are on the map, regardless of whether or not they are actually in our inventory. So we could upload our items into these dimensional depots and use them to store resources, which is a really good thing to have, because you could essentially then build wherever you wanted to with the resources that you had uploaded. I also went ahead and learned the alien energy harvesting as well, as I did have a few summer sloops available, but I didn't have the computers available to actually learn that. So I figured I could come back to this stuff at a later date. I then went ahead and took a look at the dimensional depot. Like I mentioned, you can upload items into it. I didn't really understand it at the time, but thankfully, once I put the concrete in, it started uploading it, and I could have access to these items across the map wherever I was, which was really good. I also went ahead and expanded the depot so that it was a 200%, and then I hooked this up to a concrete line so that we could have concrete just constantly getting uploaded into our dimensional depot, because I figured concrete was going to be one of the big boys that we would use a lot of. With the excess reanimated SAM, I then put that into the sink, and it was netting us quite a decent amount of points per minute. Alright, we're also going to grab some more research here of the mycelia so we can get fabric. I wonder what fabric's going to unlock for us. I'm excited. Oh, a parachute. Alrighty, we just made some fabric, so now we should be able to get the parachute. That sounds exciting. So I wanted to make the parachute, but I needed more mushrooms, so I headed back out to our uranium cave, grabbing all the mycelia in the area that I could. I also explored a little bit more and found some extra stuff. We found a pure quartz node. We're going to tap into this, get this ferried back to the base as well. I'm trying to track down where's shooting these stupid things at me. Yeah, we're going to get this ferried back to the base. Oh, I don't have any bloody power out here. And here's our reward, a purple power slug. Whoa. What the hell are you? It's fast. I'm not going to catch that. Okay, we found another Mercer sphere. However, it's surrounded by strikers. Stingers, sorry. We're going to kill them. There's a lot of these bastards in here. Holy smokes. Okay, I think that's all of them. We'll find out if something bites me in the ass. Alright, we now have a quartz line back to the base. However, we do still need to get power to the miner. So we're going to head all the way back out there, connecting up power along the way. I just need to make sure I've got the means to be able to make everything. Okay, we might grab some more cable just in case. Alrighty, and we have power set up to our miner, and this should start producing a bunch of quartz for us, which, I mean, I think we need for research and potentially other stuff. I'm not sure, but at least that's another material that we have crossed off our list, and it's getting produced now, which is wonderful. Look at that beautiful quartz. So with the quartz setup, I was able to complete some more research, unlocking myself 6 extra inventory slots. I was able to make myself the parachute, and my uploaded items were going along great. Now, I couldn't figure out how to really use the parachute properly. I did manage to pop it there, but I wasn't completely efficient with it. I was struggling a little bit, but it's fine. I could slowly figure my way out with it. I did set up the crystal node line to start producing silicate as well as some other stuff, just so that we could get enough of that item in, and the quartz crystals. Now, thankfully, because I put the Mark II miner on the quartz node, we were going to be getting a butt ton of quartz crystal in. So I just have to wait for it to come in before I could set up the proper system for it. All right, quartz crystal production is up and running. We've split it into 3 constructors just because we have 120 quartz coming in at the moment. Each of this is taking 37.5 per minute, so we are sweet in terms of production. This should keep it semi-steady. We're obviously going to back up a little bit, especially when those ones are filled up, but that's fine. I then went ahead and learned some new research now that I had once again the available materials, grabbing some crystal oscillators as well as seeing the radio signal scanning. I really wanted this as I figured this would help us unlock hard drives as well, and then I found the Explorer. And I really wanted a buggy to drive around. So I made that my goal to try and get the research for the Explorer. Thankfully, I was able to make the crystal oscillators, and I learned myself the Explorer. I also grabbed the gas mask so I could be immune to those gas spires, and I made myself the Explorer. Now, I just had one slight problem. How the stuff in hell do I fuel this thing? I had no idea whatsoever. Why do I don't know how to drive these things. Why can I not drive them? Do I have any coal on me? I have coal. Aha. All right. We now have fuel in our vehicle. Well, this thing seems fast. Oh God, it's very fast. Does it jump? That's our handbrake. Okay, this is cool. Camera's a bit weird. This is very far though. Can you take it on the jump pad? Lol. That's so good. That's so funny. Alright, cool. I am a big fan of the Explorer. We are going to take this with us a lot of places. Although, obviously, we've got the bloody tubes now. The hyper tubes. So, I don't know. We're going to have to manually take it over to some places. But we can use it to explore, like, all of this area, which is really good. Cool, that's exciting. All right, so we're making some more crystal oscillators here so that we can go ahead and get the hard drive scanner, which is the final tier on the quartz side of research. Before that, we need 100 crystal oscillators, so we've got to strap in. I also realized that I could make the rebar gun, and I figured that was going to be a very suitable weapon to use. So I crafted, researched it and then crafted it up, and boy oh boy, I would not want to get hit by this thing. Oh, you only fire one at a time. Okay. I mean, that's definitely would not want to get hit by a rebar coming out of this sort of gun. Whew. Now, I wanted to complete the research tree, so I grabbed the scannable object for the hard drives, and I also took a look at our Caterium tree, and it was very lackluster. I hadn't tapped into any Caterium, so I headed out and found a node that was actually relatively close to the base area, and it was a pure node as well, and I tapped into that bad boy so we could start learning the Caterium research. Alrighty, so we've just tapped into a Caterium ore node that's producing Caterium ingots for us up there. So we've got some Caterium ingots here with us that we're taking back to the base at the moment because we're going to do some research. I am also in the mood to restart the entire factory. Considering our area up there, I also found a limestone, pure limestone node up there as well, which I'm considering tapping into and restructuring that entire facility up there just because it's not working. And we've just got chaos everywhere. Thankfully, this is producing versatile frameworks, so we're going to need those for the next phase, which I'm happy about. So with my Cjthecheesedj ingots, I was able to unlock the quick wire research, which is great because it progresses the tree. Made a bunch of quick wire and then unlocked the Cjthecheesedj electronics, and this is where my mind got blown. We got access to a new power pole Mark II, which actually had more connectors on it, as well as AI limiters and some high-speed connectors. So there was a whole heap of extra stuff in here, as well as a smart splitter. Whole heap of extra stuff in here that we needed to research to get access to. So I went ahead and learned the power pole Mark II because that was just going to change our lives. It had a total of 7, I believe, connection points on it. And the power tower only had 4. This was just a way to get the power lines further away so that you could go longer distances and not have those tiny little poles, which, I mean, I didn't really realize at the time, but that worked for me throughout it. So we grabbed the Mark II power pole. And you can see there it had 7 power line connectors, which was amazeballs. Let's grab these AI limiters. I don't know what the AI limiters are. We're going to grab the zip line. I don't know what the zip line does, but I'm hoping we can zip along power lines. Let's try this out. This is going to be... Whoa! Oh. Oh, you can turn around in these. Yo, I had no idea you could turn around in them. Okay, that's kind of cool. All right, so how do we zip line on them? This seems very dangerous, but I'm here for it. Oh, that's so cool. All right, that's a really good way to get around with the pipe system because obviously the pipe system you can't get out. So I also researched the smart splitter, and this was also going to be a huge game changer. Essentially, any overflow items or any item we wanted, we could send in a different direction. So this was going to unlock a huge amount of things for us in the game if we wanted to sort of make our systems more refined and continuously produce from the resources that it had. So I was really excited about the smart splitter. We also have 46 coupons, so I might as well print some of these off. I also went ahead and printed out the coupons that I had from all of the extra resources we had coming in, and I spent that on buying some of the extra structures. So we spent 8 tickets, we got a total of 46, so we had 38 left to go, and I bought the Fixmas, the mug as well. Because, well, I mean, who doesn't love a sip of coffee in the morning when they're trying to do their factory? Me, I don't like coffee. I hate coffee. I went back to learning more research, trying to once again finish all the research trees, and then I began work on the factory over the water. Like I said, I kind of just wanted to reset everything and go again. Now, obviously, I wasn't going to do everything, but I wanted to try and have things looking semi-neat, somewhat decent. So I laid down 2 separate flooring foundations. This was going to be our logistics floor so that we could have everything transported into there on the belts, brought up into our assembly machines. So this was going to be essentially all of our steel, our iron, everything like that. Our failed section up above was all going to be down here. So I had a bunch of constructors laid down, a bunch of smelters laid down. I got to work at placing the assemblers as well. It was just a super tedious, long, drawn out process because I did have to reiterate everything. I was doing my best here. This game, it really makes you think about a lot of things and like your math skills and stuff like that. And my math skills, they're not the greatest. I despise math, but we're not going to go into that about now. So thankfully I was able to get everything up and running, and it did look really good. I was a fan of how everything was laid out. Everything was nicely joined. Everything was spaced out nicely. It was really good. Really happy with how it was all looking. I obviously had to bring in the materials first as well, but I did have the belts out and ready to go. I just had to bring in all the materials. So this was going to be what this bottom floor here was for having all of the belts for the normal resources coming in, and then they were going to join up into this system. Okay. We have iron coming in to the system, which is really good. It's getting split, so we should have 30 iron coming into here, and 30 iron coming into this line as well. We're going to let it back up a bit just before we turn it on. That's going to get split into 30s. Cool. So we've got 180 iron produced at the iron miner. We upgraded it to a Mark II, and then we underclocked it to 75%. So it's producing 180 iron, which is enough to power each of these because we calculated these screws are getting fed into this assembler, which is getting the iron plates from all the way over there. Alrighty, and we should have a cement production line coming on shortly. Once I get this hooked up to power, it looks like everything is going the proper direction, getting split up correctly. So we've got 5 constructors here that are going to produce a bunch of concrete for us. I think I've just realized why we're not getting enough screws. This isn't actually getting fed out to anything, which is exactly what you want to see. That all makes sense now. Look at the difference in screws we're getting. Now I wanted to get my steel production online, so the best way I figured to do that was to run a conveyor belt all the way over from that coal pure node over to our new factory area. And as you can see, it's a hell of a long belt. It literally spans a very large distance of the map. But what matters is we managed to get the coal over here so that we could use that in order to make our steel production systems come online. Now I just needed to hook up some iron ore, which I was also probably going to ferry from all the way over there and bring that over to this section of the map. Our steel production over here is going rather well as well. I've set up all the necessary machines. I am now just going about setting up our splitters at the front here. Okay. So, we have 45 coal being split each way. We've got 180 coal coming in on the line. We've got that getting split into 90 here on each side. And then that 90 gets split into 45 up top, which I believe should be enough to power. So I managed to bring the iron ore into the system as well, and I had successfully set up some steel production with 4 foundries producing the steel that I needed. It didn't look the greatest, but I mean, it would get the job done, which is what matters at the end of the day. Okay. It looks like everything is running as expected, 100% efficiency, looking good. So with the concrete line I had set up earlier, I then grabbed that and brought that into the assembler with the steel beams, which I then was able to make the encased industrial beams. So that was pretty much our entire steel production up and running, and it was all getting fed into some storage containers that were located at the end of the line. So I was pretty happy with how everything was looking. The new factory, yes, it was very flat and one-dimensional, but it was a lot neater, a lot tidier than what we had currently been building and working with. So I was really happy to get all of this stuff online. I just kind of wish I had done it sooner instead of wasting my 100 days on organizing and making a semi-presentable factory. So the next thing to consider when building this huge factory was my Cjthecheesedj ingots that I had coming out. So once again, I decided to set up some belt lines, bringing all the Cjthecheesedj over to our new area. Now, this is pretty much how it went for every resource that we were bringing over here. Just straight up huge long belt lines until we got to the main factory area. Thankfully, I was able to get these there pretty easily. And next to the copper production, I was able to bring in the Cjthecheesedj production. So I set up a bunch of constructors and we had Cjthecheesedj wire being produced, and then that was also getting shipped off into an assembler with some copper sheets so we could make some more resources. Half of it was getting set into an industrial storage, and like I mentioned, the other half was getting put into an AI limiter production line. Now, I had also gone ahead and built another assembler so that we could start creating motors, because we were going to need a shit ton of motors to start progressing in this next tier of items. I also put some more of the fluctuated SAM into the sink so we could generate some more tickets. Things were looking pretty good. Everything was just a bit of a bloody mess at the moment. I was still trying to get some more alien research done so that we could increase our dimensional depots. It was just taking its sweet ass time.
We've also been producing quite a bit of versatile frameworks, so we can grab all of that. I mean, I don't think we've got anywhere near enough to what we need to for this next tier, but like it's just chipping away at it slowly. I probably could up the processing for it, but honestly, the whole line for that seems very complicated. It's very complicated. We don't have a modular framework over at our new area. We've only got that one that was there before, like at the area before that, so we'll just have to stick to how we're doing it now, which honestly, it kind of works. Like, we're at 1700, just over halfway, and this is kind of just chilling. We've got the steel coming in, the steel beams coming in on their own, but then we just have to fill up the modular frameworks every now and again to make sure it's producing them, and like, it's just doing its own little thing, which I think is fine. That works for us, I reckon. Alrighty, and we can now complete our oil production processing. Let's launch that bad boy. Woo! Alright, we're going to wait for 10 minutes for the next pod to return, but we got a bunch of new stuff, so crude oil can now be extracted and refined. I feel like we've just opened a whole can of worms. This is going to be very difficult to wrap my head around, I think. So it was then time to go ahead and get into the oil processing side of things. So I built a hypertube system from our new factory all the way down here to where we found those oil nodes earlier, because I figured this was going to be a great place to set up some of the oil refineries. However, I did get slightly sidetracked by some Mercer spheres and some collectibles along the way, because, well, we always need those, especially for our dimensional storages at the moment. We just needed a crap ton of Mercer spheres. So I snuck up on the little spawners and decided to take them out before collecting my prize of the Mercer sphere. Thankfully, because I snuck up on them as well, it didn't actually produce any of the little bees. So I was really happy about that. Oh, have we got a summer sloop? Or is it another Mercer? That's a summer sloop. We got another one of those. I'll take it. Let's go. Why not pick that back up? Okay, that's fine. Along the way, I was greeted with lots of hostile wildlife, which is never a fun time. Never a fun time. However, thankfully, I did have the rebar gun, so I was able to make quick work of them, and I did manage to get myself another hard drive before stumbling upon a herd of the chargers. Now, I thankfully had the Nobelisks, so I thought I'd blow them all up. Alrighty, and here we go for the jetpack. I'm excited to get the jetpack, and let's launch that bad boy. We got some more inventory space as well, which honestly I'm very excited for. Jetpack. Guessing it's going to replace the parachute on our back. So after making the jetpack, I realized it used solid biofuel as its fuel source, and solid biofuel wasn't the greatest. We'll come back to this. I went ahead and took a look at our hard drive library to see what we had going on, see if we could use anything else here different so we can make some better stuff. Our hard drives that we had, I didn't think they were that great, to be honest, but I mean, like, look at this. An automated miner or a basic iron ingot. Granted, it was made in the foundry, but like still, I didn't need either of these things, I guess. So I headed back out to our oil field location. I managed to bring the power out here using the large power towers, and then I found the oil nodes. So here are the crude oil nodes. So I went ahead and grabbed myself the refineries that we were going to need to place on these things. I just needed to figure out how to place it. Must be placed on a resource node. Is that not a resource node there? Do I have to blow it up maybe? Is this the pure one? Maybe I have to blow it up? Nope. Okay, so for some reason I couldn't place it on those ones, but we've got some crude oil here, which is pure, which actually lets us place it there. So I'm a bit confused, but that's fine. I used my scanner and then it popped up. So I was like, okay, sure, we'll do that. That's also a pure node. Okay, that's really good then. We can use that. I just want to kill this spawner thing before we do anything else. Alright, cool. Alright, so with our oil extractor, we'll be extracting 240 crude oil per minute. With the oil extractor online, I had a bunch of different options to make, but I decided just to settle with the plastic first. Now, this was going to produce plastic and heavy oil residue, a byproduct that I would need to figure out what to do with. So for the time being, what I did was I just left that single oil extractor and refinery there, and I set up some foundations so that I could actually build a proper oil refinery factory, which is exactly what I did. Went ahead and I also learned the we also wanted to get petroleum power for fuel-powered generators, so that way it would be even better energy production and we wouldn't have to solely rely on our coal. But I decided to go for fluid packaging first so that we could package up all the fluids and stuff like that, the byproducts from our oil extractor and refineries, and hopefully that would help our situation. But now that we were getting into plastic and rubber, this was something that we were going to have to constantly deal with as a byproduct, which, I mean, you can see there I wanted to get rid of that packaged heavy oil residue. I also wanted the packaged fuel so that I could actually fuel my jetpack as well. So we sent that away and got the resources for it. Alrighty guys, so we're just playing around with some oil production at the moment, just trying to figure out how we want to lay everything out. We don't really need this many oil refineries just yet, because, well, we can't even turn any of the oil that we're producing into actual fuel to power electricity. So what we're going to do is we're just going to get enough plastics and rubber so that we can actually go ahead and start getting the power production up and running. So we've got this system here, which is pretty much just running off that singular one. It's producing that fuel. That fuel is coming into this tank. I did try to make the packager, but we don't actually have any packages. So with the other pure oil node, I decided to set up a few refineries after I was extracting it. I had this one set to producing rubber. So I had brought everything down below so it would run underneath the floor and making it look nice and neat. So we had 3 refineries, and of those 3 refineries, the heavy oil residue was then getting processed into another machine, which were turning into fuel. I then returned back to the main base, grabbing the motors that I had, as pretty much motors was the only thing holding me back. And do you think I would have gone ahead and built a motor creating area? Nah fam, that's not how I roll. Thankfully, I did complete the extra power one so that we could now use the fuel into power. And then I went exploring some more. This time I made my way up to the northern area of the map, which is like some sort of deserty place, which I was like, oh, this is pretty cool. I did find a purple slug, however, it was surrounded by these bloody gas clouds, and me being the idiot, hadn't built a gas mask yet. Thankfully, I was able to just get it. I was out here looking for hard drives, to be honest. So I was just trying to find as many alternate recipes as I could. I did manage to make my way up to the top of this area where all I needed was 10 biofuel to get the hard drive. Managed to grab myself another Mercer Sphere, blow up one of these alpha spitters. Now these guys were really tough. I'm assuming we weren't supposed to be here until later on in the game because these guys were extremely strong. Plus they were surrounded by uranium deposits. But I did my heckin' best to try and kill these guys. I did have some Nobelisks, I did have my Xeno Basher, and I also had my rebar gun, but I didn't realize I had my rebar gun until a little bit later. And then I switched over to that to try and juke these guys out in between. So I figured I could just try and like use the ramps as a kind of barricade to shoot these guys. It worked rather effectively. We managed to take out one of them, but these guys were just extremely tough. Thankfully, I was able to defeat them, get up here and grab some of the resources surrounding the drop pod, like these fused modular frames. I'd never even heard of these things. I also couldn't get even into the bloody drop pod to open it, so that was a whole waste of time. But I did get some extra good resources that are not available till later on in the tier, like aluminium casings and some alumina sheets. So I was pretty happy about that. So I got out of there, and then we continued our hunt for A, more hard drives, B, more Mercer Spheres, and C, more power slugs. Thankfully, with the help of the parachute, I was able to sort of navigate the area a lot easier, as it did provide us with quite a lot of aerial opportunities. I did find another drop pod. This one needed power, so I hooked up some power, got the hard drive out of that real quick as well while I was there. And then I found a summer sloop down here surrounded by stingers. So obviously I needed to get myself that summer sloop, as these guys, as far as I was aware, were capable of actually duplicating the amount of resources that you produced for the same amount of resources, if that makes sense. You'll see it later on in the video, but it was a pretty cool thing. I didn't realize this at the time, so I just kind of was any that I found I would grab. Found another hard drive. I was just trying to swim in as many of these as I could so I could get as many alternate recipes as I possibly could. Mercer Sphere and another hard drive in this location. This one needed power as well, and I needed to deal with the enemies nearby. I'm not gonna lie, this is pretty much what I spent quite a few days doing, just going around looking for Mercer Spheres, drop pods, because like these are all key ingredients that we need to progress in the game kind of thing. So I just spent a lot of time looking for them, and it took me quite a few days, but I got quite a few of them at the end of the day. Wonderful. We're dead. Wonderful. We're very far away from everything. So after dying and returning back to base, I figured I'd check the versatile framework system, and we had heaps of them in here. So before I headed to the space elevator, I went to check my recipes and re-scanned on one of them. And looking back, I probably should have taken the recycled plastic, but nonetheless, I went ahead and put the versatile frameworks into the space elevator, getting stage 1 complete. And then I headed back out, finding more of these drop pods while I was out there trying to get back to my body. I did go a different route this time around, and I found quite a few different things here and there. Like, I was pretty happy with what I found and the hard drives that I found. I just needed to get back to my buddy and make sure that I didn't die in the process while doing that as well. Holy shit, okay. Well, that was fun. These red ones did like my entire health bar. Come on, come on, come on. Let's go before he's able to fire on us. All right, there was a big
big alpha spitter out there. Ooh, that was close. After navigating the red bamboo forest, which make note, never ever enter again, I did manage to make my way over to my body, defeating the hatches that killed me the first time around, and I was able to retrieve all of my stuff after dealing with the bees. And the hard drive that was in the drop pod. So I was pretty happy about that, and thankfully I wouldn't have to come back out here anytime soon with my freaking little tiny legs carrying me the whole way. I did have to get rid of some stuff to make some space, but it was all fine in the end. Now the fun part of trying to get back to base. We've finally made it back to the base. Hallelujah. I went ahead and got my hard drive unlocked after returning to base and re-rolled it, getting encased industrial pipes and coated iron canisters. All these hard drives that I had collected were getting used for rescans pretty much because I didn't know what I wanted. I also researched the protein inhaler as well as the expanded tool belt and the medical properties of the mycelia and a vitamin inhaler. Now, this alternate recipe here was the silicon circuit board and the heavy oil residue. I figured I'd go with the circuit board because I felt like that was the better option. It was copper sheets and silicate. I don't even remember what it cut out. Actually, the plastic, there you go. So it actually cut out the plastic as the middle source, and we had plenty of silicate coming in from our pure crystal nodes. So I decided to go with the silicon circuit board. I also went ahead and learned the high-speed connector in the Cjthecheesedj tree, and I took a look at anything else that I could learn. I did have the power switch available to learn, so I figured, why the hell not, let's learn that as well. I also grabbed the shatter rebars, and then I took a look at the circuit board recipe. So I needed to make a high-speed connector, I needed quick wire, cables, and a circuit board. So I needed to make sure I had that up and running as I was going to need high-speed connectors. Made myself a gas mask and just continued taking a look at all the new recipes that I was slowly unlocking from my collection of hard drives. And I'll be completely honest with you, I had no idea what I was looking for in terms of alternate recipes whatsoever. I was like, these ones seemed pretty decently. I did grab the steeled frame, but in hindsight, I probably should have grabbed the bolted frame. After taking a look at the hard drives though, I needed a bit of a break, so I headed back out to my oil refineries and I decided to expand this system because we had enough oil coming in from our pure node that we could support some more refineries. So I went ahead and got to work at setting those up so we could hopefully start producing power through these guys as well. We're going to select the recipe. We're going to go, it doesn't really matter what we go with. Let's just go with plastic here, we're going to need more of that anyway. So our oil pump is pumping out, I think, 240 metric meters. I don't know how you justify I don't know. 240 per minute. These are only using 30 per minute. So 30, 60, 90, 120. So we can go another 4 more of these bad boys. The only thing is we've just got to deal with this heavy oil residue, which is what's holding us back. So we're going to need to get more on the other side now as well. Now these also don't have power, which is what we're struggling with. We haven't set up a proper power grid on this side yet. So we are also going to be mindful that our power grid is probably reaching its near limits. So we're going to start seeing some drop downs unless we get stuff sorted. So let's get these refineries down first. We've got everything. Is everything green? Let's check our little lights. Everything is looking green. We got yellow. Why we got yellow for? What's going on? We're just not generating enough heavy oil residue from our production lines, I guess. So I had gone ahead and set up a system where our first initial refineries would produce our rubber and plastic. The heavy oil residue from that would then feed into the next line of refineries, and then the fuel that would come out of those would then get fed into these fuel generators. Now, I wasn't generating enough fuel, so I did build some more refineries, and I dedicated those ones just to straight up fuel so that we could get those to power the rest of these fuel-powered generators. Now, this did give us quite a boost of energy, and it did enable us to actually have enough fuel to power all of these generators. Heck, I even went ahead and built one more of these generators. So this was a good way for me to go about getting extra power, extra fuel, and making sure that we had enough of everything to go around. I did have some waste product from this, which was the polymer resin, which would then get shipped down below and sent into the storage container. However, I did have a smart splitter which I was going to set up, and this was actually going to split off the polymer resin so that we wouldn't have to worry about it in our storage. It did just take me a little bit of time to get that set up properly, but our new sort of mini power system was actually working really good. We did have extra power now. We could definitely amp it up with the other pure oil node that we had. I just didn't get around to doing that just yet. But you can see the heavy oil residue was coming into our storage system. Now, I did return back to base to launch a rocket for Logistics Mark IV, as I did have the rubber for it. This unlocked new belts for us so that we could now transport more materials over time, as well as access to the truck. Not that I used the truck. Next one was the industrial processing. I was going to need this to complete phase 3 of the space elevator. Thankfully, I pretty much had majority of the materials that it required. The biggest thing that I was lacking was the motors. They were just an absolute nightmare to try and get for me, and I didn't set up a factory. Look at the state of my base! I didn't set up any factories for really much of anything, to be honest. It was a bit of a shit show. I kind of just had everything fed in from storage containers into it. I did go ahead and take a look back at my recipes, and I did get a steel screw recipe, which was actually really what I thought was good. But I don't ever think I actually even used the steel screw recipe, to be completely honest. All right, we're going to go ahead and grab the compacted coal recipe. Alrighty, we're going to go ahead and learn the turbo fuel. I have no idea what turbo fuel is, but it's significantly better than standard package fuel. You can see there, that's worth 2,000 megajoules. This is only worth 750. So we're going to learn this research and see what this unlocks for us. I'm excited to get that. I don't know what we'll need for turbo fuel, but it's exciting. And apparently we can get rocket fuel and ionized fuel. Okay. So after unlocking turbo fuel, I took a look at what I needed, and it was pretty much fuel and compacted coal, which I didn't really have any of. So I left it aside for now. I also went ahead to check on our power generation, and this was looking great. We had excess amounts of fuel coming in. Our storage container was starting to fill up, and I would need to fix that ASAP, otherwise we would start losing power production. I did go ahead and build some more refineries on the other side, because I was going to hook up this other purer oil node and turn this into some more power generation over here. It just was going to take a little bit of time. Got enough motors and we got enough modular frames. We can launch that bad boy and we get a bunch of new stuff. Look at that. So we get manufacturer, we get computers, heavy modular frames, modular engines, and the adaptive control units. Let's dump this big boy down. Let's take a look at it, because I am excited. Ooh. Look at the size of this thing. Holy smokes, it's huge. Oh, we got our first manufacturer achievement. This thing is huge. Okay, so what have we got? Modular engines. Yeah, we're going to need those engines. I think we will grab the rigger motor just because we need so many of them. Okay, let's chuck this manufacturer down. I just want to see it in action, to be completely honest. Let's throw in the rigger motors is what we're going to go for. Chuck that in, and chuck that in. And then we just need some power. Ooh, that's really cool. This is a very fancy machine. We'll get a crap ton of motors in the process. It's just going to take a little bit of time to do so, which honestly is like, it's fine. Alrighty, so I spent some time making up some of the fluctuators, and we can now make the production amplifier. Almost can make the alien power augmenter, but we're going to make this bad boy first. So let's start the research there to increase resource output without requiring more input. So that's really good. Oh, power consumption. That's fine. We're going to grab the dimensional depot stack increase as well. I think I'm going to go for the upload speed. Okay, so I've just chucked the summer sloop into here, and it looks like we just got 13 motors instead of the 6 that we normally get, because we've got that strapped in there. Oh shit, wait, that's only 6. Maybe it's just because we didn't have it. Oh my god, look at the amount of power it's using though. That's triple the amount. So it's at 168.4. Here come our 10 motors. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Yes, that's so good. So after discovering the power of the summer sloop, I went ahead and started putting all of my power slugs into constructors and converting them into the energy cells, into the power shards. So this would actually double our output at no extra cost to us. So instead of, we're essentially receiving 2 times the amount of power shards we would if we only had the singular power slugs in. So this was actually really good because we also did the same thing for the alien protein as well as the DNA capsules. And this is going to be key for us to generate a bunch of extra fix-it coupons that we could use to buy stuff in the store. So we could use it to buy resources, more structures, more customization stuff. It was glorious. I was so happy that we discovered these summer sloops and what they did now, because it was just going to make things a lot easier and a lot better for us. So I spent some time getting those up and running until I pretty much was out of all of the resources. And like, we were generating so many coupons from using these DNA points. It was great. I was so happy about it. So I went back to my oil refinery area and I started hooking up all these new systems to produce fuel so that we could turn these into more power. Now, I think I had 8 of these refineries here, so I did go ahead and get them all configured, and then that fuel was then going to get pumped into these fuel generators, increasing the amount of our power, hopefully exponentially and by a lot. We were sort of teetering on the edge of max consumption. Thankfully, I did trigger this, and just don't look at my pipework. I honestly could not tell you what was going on here. It was terrible. It did sort of flicker in and out while the system was equilibrium? Is that equalizing? That's probably the best way to describe it, because the first systems were getting more of the fuel in comparison to the last systems. So it was just taking a little bit of time for the rest of the system to turn on. But thankfully it did, and we did have a solid amount of power now coming in. So I was pretty happy about that because we were slowly ticking up on that. We now had a capacity of 3,500, which was really good. Like, I also didn't know how much power we were realistically going to need for the entire 100 days, but I was slowly trying to expand it, so I was pretty happy with how our fuel power generators were going. Now, we did run into a slight problem where our first initial refineries had stopped producing any sort of resources because our storage bins were full. So I needed to figure out something in order to fix that, so I went ahead and placed myself down a smart splitter, and what I was going to do was separate everything out. So I was going to have the oil residue go into an awesome sink, as well as any excess oil or as well as any excess rubber or plastic. So any overflow was going to be coming out of the splitter and heading into our recycler, which, I mean, is going to be perfect because it means the system can essentially run forever, and you can see that here now. So the awesome sink obviously wasn't powered. I needed to get that fixed up first before we could do anything else. Thankfully, it wasn't too much of an issue, and I was able to get it online rather quickly, and then the system was back to working great. So I did want to try and sift out the heavy oil residue as well. I didn't want that in my storage because I didn't really think there was a use for that. I thought it was just a waste product. So what we did was we set up another smart splitter and had it configured to only take the heavy oil residue, and then that was going to get run into the awesome sink, meaning we were going to be getting all our heavy oil and plastic, and everything was going to be working great.
Okay, let's bring it back. I
then went ahead and spent 40 coupons on a bunch of different structures, getting some new foundations, some walls, and all that good stuff as well from the awesome shop. So I then went ahead and started bringing over my reinforced iron plates from one of my other smaller factories and bringing it into this assembler so we could get the crystal oscillators. I needed the crystal oscillators to make the motors so that we could make the smart engines. It was a whole process. There was a lot of things going on. There was a lot of belt work going everywhere. Circuit boards were being made. Everything was just all over the place. I was producing the high-speed connectors, thankfully, which were needed for the adaptive units, which we needed 100 of. There was just so much going on, and I was doing my best to try and juggle it all. It's a lot, and it didn't help that my factory was an absolute mess. So I eventually got a system built where we could produce computers using the circuit boards that I had produced. One thing that I was really struggling with, however, was bringing my plastic and rubber over from my oil refinery area. I was really struggling with that. However, I did get my first manufacturer down, and we did have computers being produced with circuit boards, cable, and plastic. But like I said, we needed to figure out a better way to bring our plastic and rubber over. So what did we go ahead and do? We unlocked the trains. Trains were going to be massive. We were going to be able to ferry resources over a huge distance. Relatively easy once I figured out how they worked. But first, I needed to complete the research for it. Thankfully, I did have pretty much all of the resources. My engines were being produced massively at this assembler that I left back at the base. So thankfully, I had heaps of them. I was super happy about that because I would have been screwed over if I didn't plan for these earlier. Thankfully, I was able to complete the train research, and we sent this rocket into space, giving me the access to trains. Now I just need to figure out how to bloody use the things. And also make them, which required more engines and motors.
Trains are excellent for efficiently moving vast quantities of parts. Train logistics can be made more precise and complex with tools found in the railway signaling milestone. I listen to all my pioneers, often when they're not even aware of it. So due to popular demand, I have added a motivational message. Choo-choo mother...
That's the best thing ever. Alrighty, so we're just hooking up a storage container with plastics into the manufacturer. We are struggling to get plastic into here, and everything else in the system is backing up. So we obviously don't want that. So that manufacturer should start coming back online. This bad boy is still producing our crystal oscillators for us.
I then wanted to build some dimensional storage on top of our original storage boxes that we had, just so that we would always have access to it. So that's exactly what I did. You can see here I had the industrial storage, and then on top was the dimensional depot uploader. So this would always ensure that we had the resources on hand. It was then time to tackle the trains. So I needed to start by building a railway system first, and we obviously needed to have this hooked up to our oil refinery area, which was pretty far away from us. But what did I do? I just laid out a bunch of foundations leading to this location and hoped that the railway track would be able to be stacked on this and gravity wasn't a thing, because that would really screw us over.
Yeah, it looks like it's kind of working. I'm so hopeful for this. I really hope I don't fuck it up. How much do we care about our train going underwater? That is the real question here. Do we care about our train going underwater? Honestly, I'm of the opinion, no, we don't, but let's see what we can do to make it not go underwater first. Okay, let's see how this goes. So, if we spin this around, and we have that set like that, we just need to get our train track lined up with this bad boy. Do we care about it doing that? No, I don't think so. We just want a train line that works. Can we hook this up? Okay, we can. It's slight clipping there, but that should be fine. All right, so we've got that. Now, how do we set the freight platform? Okay, so we can put that actually just there, which works out nicely, because then we can load everything up. The only issue is we've got all these logistics down here that we might need to move. So I think what we need to do is I think we need to have the freight platform potentially before the actual train stops. So if we go like this and we chuck the freight down like that. So if we chuck the train there and we attach the freight car to it. My thoughts are that, yep, okay. Oh, we can drive the train. Wait, do we have to drive the train, or can we automate it? I thought we could just automate it.
So after fiddling with the tracks, I then went ahead and got my industrial storage hooked up to the freight platform holding area, so that the resources would go from my storage containers into what I thought was the proper way to do it. I don't know, we were just waiting for the resources to come in. But turns out I had a lot to learn, because that's not how things were working. As you can see, the rubber wasn't going into our freight platform, and I honestly could not tell you why.
Okay, hold on. Let's configure the train station. All right, so the train station is definitely working. Timetable. Oh, maybe it's because we don't have another station. I don't know. This is so confusing. Does it actually? Can it come off the train tracks? No, it can't. All right, so switch intersection path. AD. No. Open train menu. Manual driving. Train. Okay. Well, I mean, we can drive. It'll just drive backwards. This is working. Oh god, that stability, that foundation stability just freaks me out. I am so glad that gravity is not a thing in this game, otherwise our train would have derailed multiple times already. Okay, so we've got the freight platform set up, we've got the train station set up, so now we should be able to set a timetable. How do I set a timetable? Transfer all stacks of type, transfer stack, split stack. That doesn't make... turn on self-driving, edit timetable, rotor dam, SCODI, plus to Rotterdam. Save changes. Oh, we got the train schedule achievement. So next station Cjthecheesedj. Next stop is unreachable. Why is it unreachable? Does the train need to turn around? Maybe the train can't go backwards. I mean, this is loading up everything into here, but maybe the train can't actually go backwards. Maybe that's the issue? I'm thinking it should work. Let's find out. Right, so we've got two trains, one facing each way, because I don't think they can go in reverse. I think that might have been one of the issues. Oh god, this is going to hit hard. Ooh. Okay, so we can dock successfully now here. We've got the two freight platforms to unload, and then when we need to leave, this one will go forward. When we get to the other station, this one will go forward. Honestly, at this rate, it might be easier just to fucking belt all the shit over, to be honest. Because goddamn, this is really fucking grinding my gears. Oh, finally. We now have the trains up and running. We aren't... Oh god, that was a mistake. Okay, so we've now got the train automated. It turns out I had the train cars the wrong way around. For some reason, I split them and that worked. I don't know what I was doing wrong, but... Well, I mean, I do know what I was doing wrong, but I don't know why I did it wrong, but it's fixed now, which is good. Now that I had figured out how to get the trains automated, which was... It took me way too long, to be honest. I then sorted out the freight storage. So I was going to have rubber go to one of the freight platforms and plastic go to the other one. That way they would be separate, they wouldn't get mixed, so we could have at the other station, they could all get fed off into separate ways, and we wouldn't have to worry about the plastic being with the rubber and the rubber being with the plastic. The animation for the train loading up the resources was really badass too, by the way. Like, this was sick. I really liked the animation for this. And this was our great sign that we had actually figured out how to automate our trains. Now, obviously, it was only the one freight platform at the moment with 35 rubber in it because that's all that had been loaded up. Hey, I wasn't complaining. At least we know the system was working. So now that we had managed to not necessarily automate, but transport our plastic and rubber from our refinery site to our main factory area, I was really happy because that would excel pretty much all of our production lines because we wouldn't need to worry about grabbing it, storing it in a container, and then going from there. We could just belt it over from the freight platform directly where we needed it. I just wanted to take a second as well just to enjoy the animation of the train getting loaded up too because it was really satisfying. That's so cool. I love that. This animation is so badass. Okay, I will take that. All right, so that plastic should now start getting ferried into this storage container, which in turn will then get shoved into this manufacturer where we are producing computers. Now that I had brought over my plastics and rubber from the refinery area, I could finally start placing down some of these big boy manufacturers and get these set up over in the main factory. First up was the Rigor motors. I got a manufacturer set up so that we could have all of those resources coming in so that we can make the next tier of the engines that we needed. So that was set up next to the other assemblers and like just ignore the spaghetti everywhere. This was just pure chaos. And it's so quickly for everything just to descend into chaos. But as long as things are being produced, that is what matters at the end of the day. As long as things are produced. So in this one, we had our motors getting produced with our crystal oscillators and everything like that. In this one next to it, we had our computers getting produced. So we were producing items. However, I was slightly running out of space here and just ignore my dodgy handiwork there. So next up was the modular engine. So I needed 2 motors, some rubbers, as well as the smart chips. So I was kind of glad that I had that extra smart chip made up. I did bring in some resources from beneath us to go into this manufacturer. And these things were going to take a really long time to produce because we needed 500 of them. So we were going to need to run a lot of resources in it. But thankfully, I did have smart chips getting produced in the droves. And then I also ran our motors over into the manufacturers from above as well. Pure chaos. Absolute pure chaos.
So I had the motors and the smart plating coming in. I just needed to get the rubber brought in. So I ran a conveyor belt from our freight platform straight into our manufacturer. And just like that, we had our first modular engines being produced, which I was really excited about. However, I did have plenty of resources that I figured I could actually go ahead and build some more of these manufacturers to get more of these engines out here and produced.
Look at that. Look at us being optimistic. That's not the right word. Organized? I don't know why I can't get the right word in my brain. Okay, and then modular engines in here. We're going to chuck some power cores in, so we're making plenty of these big boys. Let's take a look. I want to make sure that we're not going to blow our power load as well. You watch me eat my words and get absolutely destroyed now that I've split off these resources. Guarantee it's not going to work anymore. Alright. So, I mean, the systems are all backing up, which means we should have enough stuff. Okay, everything seems to be holding up pretty good. I'm not seeing any shortages anywhere. By the looks of things. Oh god, my output is right across the rotor line. Alright. Engines are all up and running. AI plating should be fine. We've got plenty of backed up rubber here. It's backing up over here. The motors are running fine. I think these systems should be okay. I don't think we should have any issues with these going forward. Cool.
The next thing that I needed to tackle were heavy modular frames, as I needed those for the adaptive units. So thankfully I did get the steel beam to screw recipe, which we were capitalizing on right now. And then I went ahead and built another manufacturer. Now the heavy modular frames needed modular frames, steel pipes, encased industrial beams, and screws. So they needed a butt ton of resources. Now, thankfully, I did have modular frames that were being produced back on our separate factory. So I did belt those all the way over here into this system so that we could get it going. And then I brought the screws from down below, the beams from below, as well as the industrial beams. It was just pure chaos. You can see here, this is where I started to not panic, but I was just trying to get through things, to be honest, because it gets a lot, and I didn't have the proper infrastructure to have these systems built properly, and I didn't spend the right amount of time because I didn't realize the scope of it all. But thankfully, my engines were being produced nicely. We were slowly getting a bunch of those. The heavy modular frames were also getting produced as well. I did end up building another manufacturer, so we had 2 of those going at once. So we had a decent amount of heavy modular frames coming in, but I hadn't even started to tackle the adaptive units yet, which did need those modular frames. Now that I had heavy modular frames coming in, I pretty much had everything I needed for the adaptive control unit. It was just the process of getting everything to this manufacturer, and it would produce at 1 per minute, which is quite slow. It's quite slow. So thankfully I had been producing the automated wiring, I had been producing the circuit boards, so I did have a decent amount of it. It was just a matter of bringing everything into this manufacturer. And I did have the computers being produced as well. So it began the process of belting everything over, and thankfully I did begin producing the adaptive control units. I was going to need 100 of these bad boys though, so that was going to take a bit of time.
All our materials for phase 3 being created. It is a very extremely scuffed way of producing it, but look at this mess. Look at this absolute monstrosity over here. This is disgusting. I feel ashamed of myself. You guys don't need to feel it for me. I feel ashamed for myself. Our poor belts don't even know where to go. Okay, so we've got both manufacturers up now producing the adaptive control units, which is wonderful. I think our storage situation underneath is looking okay. I'm imagining we're still seeing items going in, which is good. That's running a little low. Might be because it's going into the dimensional storage as well. We are slowly getting into the next tier of resources and items. This is running at 100%, perfect. This one is also running at 100%. Oh my god, we are kind of chunking through our modular frames. You know what, we could probably make another assembler, because it does look like we've got excess. So let's make another assembler and get that up and running as well, because we don't want to run out of frames. Okay, I was stressing about our modular frames, but honestly there's probably all of them out here on this belt, which is
Probably nothing that we need to worry about. Nonetheless, I have built another assembler, so any modular frame, don't ask. It's in the forest. We're not going to look at it. We're just going to ignore that its presence is there and notice the modular frames located within the storage crate. Now, back at our factory, I did notice that we had some heavy modular frames backing up, so I kind of wanted to get some of these guys separate because I figured we would need these later down the line for more research or just really anything. So I did set up a smart splitter, set up any overflow to come out onto this belt and into a storage container. And I also did the same for the other heavy modular frame line that we had going on. Because I was like, yeah, surely we're going to get some runoff from these guys. I might as well collect them instead of letting them waste and sit there on the belt. And then that way we would have some heavy modular frames if we ever needed them later down the line. I returned back to the space elevator to drop off the items that I had crafted, dropping off the modular engines and the C units. Now, it was pretty good for the time that we had spent. I then went ahead and headed back over to our MAM to do some research, as we did bring some items over from our base and we had some Caterium line research that we wanted to finish, such as the Power Pole Mark 3s. Now, hopefully these were going to be even better than the Mark 2s, and I also went ahead and grabbed the priority power switch, and that was pretty much all I could grab for the time being, as I didn't have enough of the quick wire available to me. I also went ahead and finished the alien megafauna research as well, completing my first of the tech trees, unlocking an achievement in the process as well. A nuke Nobles encased uranium cell. That sounds extremely scary and dangerous. Alright, it looks like everything down here is still running pretty smoothly. I think we should have enough. We've got 70. We need like a little bit more. How are we looking over here? We've got 14 more of these guys and a couple more of these guys. The heavy modular frames are looking good. I don't know if we've had an excess amount of them come through yet. 30 more of those. Let's take a look in our storage container, see if we've got any. Okay, 13. Not the worst, but all we need to do essentially is just disable these AI control machines, and then we'll get plenty of heavy modular frames. We definitely could probably up the output of some of these, but I mean... So I may have ran into a slight problem while producing my adaptive control units. I ran out of modular frames. So thankfully I was able to complete the amount of adaptive control units that we needed, so that wasn't going to be too much of an issue, but I was out of modular frames. So I really needed to up my production of those in order to make more of the heavy modular frames. But as you could see, everything was very messy and it wasn't really working out in my favor very well. And you can see here we've also run out of cable. Where has all our cable gone? The sad thing is I don't even know where the bloody line is for this because I can't find anything. There we go. Okay, so our cable line is going through here. We're just running out of cable apparently. Our systems are starting to break now that we've just decided to go guns ho and go a bit crazy with production of things that are very expensive, and we haven't really set the fundamental foundations down for it to be sustainable. Whoopsie daisies. Good news is phase 3 is now complete. Once we get these items back in here, and we should be, I mean, like I said, I do kind of want to do a 200 days where I genuinely just strip everything down and rebuild everything into proper working factories, but we'll see how this one goes. Let's get these AI units in and the modular engines. Perfect, perfect. Let's seal it up. And this unlocks tiers 7 and 8. And then we're going to send this bad boy up. And I don't think we're going to get to the ending in this 100 days, unfortunately. But let's see what Ada has to say.
Assembly Pioneer progress presentation. Congratulations, the Phase 3 project part shipment is finally ready for delivery. On delivery, Phase 3 will be completed and the main body will be constructed. You should know how this works by now. You'll get access to tiers 7 and 8.
Aerial transportation, nuclear power.
Perhaps you should just go look at the technologies there yourself.
And aluminum
It's all
production.
laid
What do we
out
do
so
with
that
aluminum?
even a monkey could understand it, so you should have no issues. Speaking of which, I don't think you need a reminder
God,
about
look at all of
project
that.
parts. Instead, I will be providing some interesting facts.
Thermal propulsion
Did you know
rocket?
the average pioneer succeeds at saving the day? Did you know the average pioneer knows how to optimize pipe throughput? Did you know the average pioneer stays late at work because they care about humanity?
I have a feeling that
Anyway,
third one isn't
I
true.
thought you might want to know more about your peers. Good luck in Phase 4.
Okay. Here we go. Let's send it up. Oh gosh. Every time I look around, I'm greeted by pure chaos. Well, we've unlocked tier 7 and 8. Phase 3 is complete. Phase 4, oh, I don't even want to think about what that's going to require. Look at all the stuff up the top there. Let's watch the pretty assembly get built. Okay, let's go take a look at our new research tiers. I don't think we've even finished the previous research tiers. Yeah, we have. We've still got tier 6 stuff. I feel like we're going to need Pipeline Engineering Mark II for this next 2 tiers. Let's take a look here. Okay, bauxite refinement. Alumina, dissolved alumina extracted from bauxite can be further refined into aluminum scrap for why am I struggling to say aluminium properly? Okay, so that we need to dissolve, we need to get bauxite, and then that's how we get this as a scannable resource. Okay, we already have raw quartz. I don't know why that's popping up now for. Maybe because we haven't, it's the research? I don't know. Packaged alumina solution, aluminum scrap, aluminum ingots. Oh god. Alclad aluminum sheet, aluminum casing. This seems very difficult. We got the hover pack. Allows pioneers to move vertically and hover in mid-air to improve building efficiency. And factory traversal. Oh, that's cool. Wirelessly connects to nearby power connections, such as power poles and buildings for power consumption. That's really cool. Inventory slots. We got Mark V logistics, the hazmat suit. Oh, from radiation. Okay, that's how we go ahead and, I'm guessing, get the uranium ore deposits. Control system development. Scannable resource, sulfur, sulfuric acid. Okay. So we can make batteries now. Packaged sulfuric acid battery, radio control unit, supercomputer, assembly director system, and the blender. Whoa. Blends fluids together or combines them with solid parts in a wide variety of processes. Okay, so I'm guessing that's how we'll get the aluminium. Aeronautical engineering. We get drones now. So this is like a upgraded version of the train. Has 9 inventory slots. Okay, that's cool. And then the port, we have nuclear power. I'll be honest, I don't think we're going to be able to get into nuclear power, guys. I do not think we'll get into it in this 100 days. Advanced aluminum production. Oh, resource well pressurizer. Maybe that's how we get that oil out of that ground near our actual nodes. Scannable resource, water. Good to know. Oh, that's the actual thingies. Never mind. We already know that. Crude oil, nitrogen gas, fluid tank, fused modular frames, cooling systems, heat sinks. Oh my god, look at all this stuff. Turbo motors, minor Mach 3. Oh. Okay, yeah, we are. I would love to get into it, but I do not think that's going to happen. We need to get this. This is one of the things that we need to actually get into the next tier. Tier 9, Phase 4. So I don't think that's going to happen. So the question is, what are we going to do now? Well, I think what the best thing to do is to possibly optimize what we have going on. In case you guys do want to see 200 days, because I don't think there's a chance we're going to be able to get into... I don't think we'll even be able to unlock tier 7 stuff, to be honest. What do we need for bauxite refinement? Computers? Okay, we can do computers. Actually, you know what? We might be able to do the bauxite refinement one. Alrighty, so now we've run into multiple issues because we haven't had enough cabling to get us by, which is a struggle. So pretty much majority of these manufacturers have shut down. The only reason some haven't shut down is possibly because they've got a few motors left in them. Like this one, once this runs out, we'll be out of manufacturing any of these turbo modular engines, sorry. So it's tough. It's tough. I think we just need to sort of take a few steps back, reorganize some parts of the factory, and go from there. Because like, there's so much shit everywhere. Oh, it's crazy. There's just stuff everywhere. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and complete the Fix-It Blueprint Mark II, which should allow us to make some blueprints, which should theoretically make our lives a little bit easier, and we can start organizing things a little bit better. This one is quite large. It's 32 by 32, I think, but I think having this larger one will help us much more drastically. So let's see if we can get that and see how that goes, and maybe we can improve upon some of our structures and factories. I don't even know if you could call them factories, to be honest. They're very haphazard. All right, but that's the Fix-It Blueprints Mark II. I am so dumb. I'm doing blueprints and I just dismantled the space elevator. We're just gonna rebuild that there. Just gonna rebuild that. I'm hoping I didn't demolish anything else. Ironically, I didn't even use the Mark II Blueprint Designer because I was trying to figure out ways that I could design factories and it wasn't working for me. So instead what I did was I headed over to one of our pure iron nodes and I figured I'd try and convert this into sort of a vertical running facility so that I could hopefully translate this into my other areas that we had resources coming in. It was pretty chaotic, I'm not going to lie. I wasn't doing very well at building factories, I can tell you that much. It just was not working for me. I was giving it my best, I couldn't make them look good. The verticality of it kind of worked, but I wanted to have the miner like not peek through the foundation sort of thing. So it was kind of a bit of some organized chaos for this one anyway. Alrighty, so we've gone ahead and built ourselves a modular factory. Now let's see if this thing works. So I've tried my best to try and keep it all separate. So we've got our miner on the bottom floor with like logistical stuff, and then up here we've got our smelters. So let's see if everything comes online. We've got our smelters and then our constructors straight after them. It might take a little bit for it to get started up, I don't know. It seems like we've got iron ore coming in, we've got bars coming out. These are getting turned into iron rods all through here. And then these are coming out and going upstairs. These are getting turned into iron rods over here as well. And then they're getting turned into screws, which are heading upstairs. And then on this end over here, we've got plates coming through as well. We then have, ooh, that is tasty. We then have our assemblers up here. And then up here, they are getting transported over here. Over here, we've got some reinforced plates getting created. We should start seeing reinforced iron plates coming through. Might take a little bit for the system to get up and running, but we should start getting 10 modular frames per minute, which is a much significantly higher amount than we were currently getting. All right, so we've hit a kind of a logistical nightmare, I should say, because our train is now backing up with resources because we don't have enough cables getting brought in. That should hopefully fix our cable situation. We now have built 2 extra constructors so that they are building the extra cable. We've got all the wire coming through now into 3 constructors instead of the 2. Shouldn't have any issues backing up. Hell, we could probably build another constructor and still be okay, I think. We'll see how we go. Hopefully that can fix some of our cabling situation for the time being. It does look like we've got cabling going in now. We've got movement, which is good to see. That's what you want to see. When you see movement, that's a good sign. No movement, not a good sign. I then went and took a look at how many heavy modular frames we had stored up. Oh, look at that. Look at all these frames. Perfect. All right, that's what we need to unlock the next sort of tiers of research. So we'll go do that real quick. All right, what we're going to do, we're going to try and unlock the rest of tier 6. Shouldn't be too much of an issue. We should have everything there. And then we're going to try and jump into some of the tier 7 stuff. See if we can get bauxite up and running, because we only have a few more days left. I don't think we're going to make it to phase 4, which is unfortunate, but I mean, it just means we can make a 200 days one. All right, railway signaling is good to go. So we've just launched that, so now we can obviously set up more trains as well. Alrighty, here we go. We've got our motors, we've got our extra rubber. I don't know why it's jumping around every time. And we've got our computers. Let's launch the button and we can now get into bauxite refinement, which is aluminum. Alrighty, so we now have access to bauxite. Now, I'm not entirely sure how we go about refining it. We do have some nodes just over here. There's a pure node just here. In a second, it should pop up. And we've got our coal plants here. So I'm thinking we should be able to get over here relatively easy. Feed a bauxite thing somewhere. I don't know what we actually do with bauxite just yet. Like, I'm not entirely sure where it's supposed to funnel into. Alrighty. Here's our bauxite node. Now, apparently for the alumina we need water. I'm debating whether or not we actually build a factory out here. Well, it looks like there's a large water source over here, but I think there's also uranium over here, which we might take a bit of radiation damaging from. So after making my way to the water source out here on the map, I decided it was probably going to be easier just to belt it back somewhere else. Now, the belting options I was pretty much considering out here at our oil rigs or the main factory with over the water, but I figured that was going to be way too far to belt it over. So instead I settled to belt it over to our coal system so that we could set up a refinery just there. All right, we're going to chuck our Mark II miner on, and hell, I'm even going to overclock it just so we don't have to worry about coming out here again. We are going to need to run a belt back to the area, and then we're also going to need to run power out here. So, what's our logistics like? We can run... Ooh, maybe I shouldn't have done... So I managed to belt it to our coal area, and I also set up power. And at our coal area, I actually discovered this cave that I hadn't ever been in before. So I figured I'd go in and check it out. And, I mean, there wasn't really anything very exciting at the start of it. There were also really weren't too many enemies at the start of it. But, like, I'd never seen this cave before. And I found something inside of it, which was really exciting. Okay, we found a Deep Rock Galactic boombox tape. Let's go. Okay, and we just got an achievement for that. Find and gather a boombox tape from the world. Okay, we kind of need to get a boombox now to listen to this. That's really cool. So this cave was behind a waterfall that, I mean, we just kind of stumbled into. Now that I had the resources coming in, I needed to set up the refineries and get all of the resources brought into the refineries. This was going to be very messy. I didn't really give myself a lot of space to work with here, and I already had my coal plants nearby, so they were taking up a solid amount of space. Plus, I couldn't really get the conveyor belts to run into the lifts for some reason. I don't know why. So I figured I'd just try and belt it in the normal way, even though there would be some very ugly clipping going on. I figured that would potentially be able to still work, and we'd still get our bauxite brought into our refineries. Alright. So, game plan, we've got 480 bauxite coming into here. It's getting split in half, so we've got 240 going out the left side, 240 going out the right side. Coming into these splitters, 120 out that side, 120 out that side, and that should be the total amount of bauxite that we need to get this system up and running. As for our water, we need 180 per minute. Now, these bad boys are only capable of producing 120 per minute without being overclocked. So what I've done to supplement that is I've introduced 2 extra water extractors, so we have a total of 6. So the extra 2 water extractors means we don't need to potentially overclock them, so we should have enough water coming into the entire system to power it. However, in saying that, we do need to go get the pipeline Mark II upgrade, because I don't think this system will work with that minimal amount of pipeline. So we need to head back to base, unlock that research, and then we should be able to get our aluminum production up and running. Alrighty, we now have power all hooked up. We've got bauxite coming in. I need to connect this pump up here. And we should have water starting to flow in from here. Ooh, let's take a look. We should start seeing production. Yes, we have production up and running. Perfect. So we'll be getting alumina solution and silica. We already have some. So my plan here is to actually then go ahead and build another set of refineries next to this one. And then we should be able to extract it into alumina scrap. Yeah, look at that. Perfect. All right, perfect. That's really good. That's exciting. Okay, so the alumina solution should now be coming into here. But we also need coal, and we need 120 per minute. So, bloody hell. I was not expecting... I completely negated the fact that we needed coal. Luckily, we are near our coal nodes. So, what I'm thinking we should be able to do is I might be able to split one of these coal nodes. I know I should probably move on from coal power now that we've got access to petroleum power. I mean, we've still got heaps of production coming on. So what I might do is I might turn up one of these miners a little bit, split the coal so that we have some coming up to our refineries, and then we should be able to get the aluminum scrap from there. Alrighty, so we're now getting aluminum scrap and water, which is perfect. I do want to know if there's a way I can get this water back into the system. I mean, it would just save us a little bit of a hassle, which, I mean, I think I should be able to, right? Based off, no, because, yeah, no, that's the output, so that should be fine. Okay. So it looks like, wait, aluminum ingots. Oh, it's a foundry. Okay, so we actually need silica to make the aluminum. I didn't realize. So we actually need the silica from this to actually make it. Okay, let's scrap that. Okay, so we've got alumina coming in. We've got silica coming in. Let's get these aluminum ingots crafted up. Just need to hook up some power, which we have here. And we now have aluminum ingots being produced. Wonderful. Alrighty, so it is very much a nightmare over here, but that's fine. We've got alumina coming in. We're making aluminum ingots. We've got alumina casings being made over here. And then, whoa, how did you get over here? And then from this foundry with the aluminum ingots and then these copper ingots, what we're then going to do is make an assembler. And this assembler is going to go probably about there. And from here, we should be able to make the allocated aluminum sheets. And just like that, we've got aluminum production pretty much up and running. We've got ourselves the allocated aluminum sheets, 30 per minute, 10 per minute, which should be fine. We shouldn't run into any issues. We've got the aluminum casings being made up. They are a little bit stagnating, but that's fine. I might actually put a splitter on this line and have some coming out into here because I think we should have plenty of ingots for this. So after the chaos of getting our bauxite refinement up and running, we finally were starting to get the aluminum products that we needed to unlock more of the tier 7 research. So I figured the control system development would probably be the easiest one just because we had a shit ton of plastic to use up. We did have enough computers to do so. We just had to go to the other base to get it. And we still had a bunch of aluminum products in hand as well. So I thought that would be pretty good just because we could get the scannable resource for sulfur, which I'm pretty sure I already had, but we could also get sulfuric acid, we could get the batteries, and we could get the supercomputers and the assembly director system, which was one of the first things we needed for phase 4. So I was able to complete the control system development. We launched that rocket into space, unlocking the sulfuric acid as well as everything, and the blender as well, which was another big thing that we wanted to get. Because yeah, these assembly director systems, we're going to need 500 of them, so we were going to need to get these at some point, so I figured we could do it first. Now, while I was waiting for the rocket to come back, I went ahead and gathered the resources that I needed for the hover pack. I felt like this was going to change things up quite a bit because it was going to be really cool to use. We just needed to obviously make it up now in our equipment thing as well. And we also managed to complete the rest of the tier 7 milestones. So the other two weren't really too difficult. Now that I had the aluminum up and running, I could complete those pretty easily. And then I could start tackling tier 8. However, tier 8 was just an entirely different monster in hand. I did go ahead and make myself the hover pack though, and I was really excited to go ahead and use this, to be honest. Alright, so does this sit on our body? On our back. Okay. So how does this work? Oh, this is very nice. This would make building very easy to do. Oh my god. So wait, does it just sync up to your electricity lines? So does that mean you could technically, anywhere your electricity lines go, does that mean you could just follow along those? Yep. Yep. That definitely looks to be the case. Alright, well the hover pack seems very fun to use. I mean, I can understand why it's such a late game item to get, but this would make building and stuff around bases like, I mean, this is probably a bad idea because now we see how ugly our base is. I kind of wish we didn't have the hover pack anymore because it's a lot to see our ugly base, but this is cool. I like it. Okay, it looks like we've now got a huge amount of cabling coming in as well, so we're not running out of cabling anytime soon. This is also full of circuit boards. Where are my circuit boards going? Oh my god. See, this is why you need to have a nice constructed factory, because then you just have shit going everywhere and none of it is making sense. I then went ahead and checked my heavy modular frame storage, and we had quite a lot of heavy frames in there. Now, I also wanted to take a look at just how quick the Mark V conveyor belt was, because it would transport 780 resources per minute, which is significantly higher than the 480 that the previous belt did. And the belt itself looked really cool, and it was also really fast, so that was really entertaining to go on just briefly. But unfortunately, unlocking all the tier 7 stuff did take quite a bit of time, and we had reached our 100-day mark. So unfortunately, we did have to call the series here for the time being, but I would love to know if you guys would like to see 200 days of Satisfactory, hopefully completing the game, getting into the final phase and completing that, and completing the space elevator, and hopefully optimizing our factories a little bit better, because these things are an absolute nightmare at the moment and they really need organizing. Look at that belt spaghetti. Hurts my eyes. Nonetheless, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, don't forget to leave a like, subscribe down below for more, and I'll catch you in the next one.